All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Conservation Commission. First item that we have, we're going to have on the agenda is to read a proclamation in honor of Martha Gach. This is her last meeting after many years of service on this commission and others in town. And we're going to turn it over to Ian.
Thank you, Marshall. So we tried the select board here, but they are meeting tonight, so we did have them draw up a proclamation. So you'll have to bear with me whether I read it. I'm a little dyslexic. So whereas Martha Gach, a long-time resident of the town of Shrewsbury, has served the community in the public roles, and whereas Martha Gach has applied her extensive scientific and botanical knowledge and experience to the service as a member of the Conservation Commission from 2013 to 2024, and whereas Martha Gach has served diligently as a vice chair of the Conservation Commission since her election to the position in July of 2023, and whereas Martha Gach has served as a town meeting member for Precinct 10 since her election to the position in 2020, now therefore be that we, the Select Board of the town of Shrewsbury, extend to Martha Gach the congratulations and gratitude of the board for her many years of service, and extend to her appreciation of the town and the citizens of Shrewsbury for her service and testimony thereof, and have signed her names officially and called the seal of the town of Shrewsbury to be affixed to this 17th day of December 2024.
Want your presents too? Sorry? Your presents too. They're not in front of the TV. Thank you.
I know we have a few older retired commissioners here. I don't know if it's like experience. Would they like to say any words?
Martha, well, I just want to thank you for all the years you've put in on the Concom. Your experience and expertise has been, I guess it's just been so invaluable to us. We've always looked at you for all of the biological help, and you've never failed us, and I think this is going to really put a little damper on the Concom for a while till they can find an equal replacement, but your time and effort is well appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you as well on the Concom. Thank you for all that you did for Shrewsbury too.
I just want to second what John has said. You know, it's a real pleasure, a privilege really, to serve with you on this commission, and it was always a lot of fun. We always enjoyed it, and good luck to all the new members, and good luck to you, Martha.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for coming tonight.
All right,
Concom's in good hands. Good hands going forward.
we're gonna try. All right, then. All right, first item on the agenda is just review and approve minutes. I didn't think so. Just sign some bills.
A couple of bills. Just, nope, two.
An invoice for the community advocate and an invoice for Ecotech for peer review.
All right, on to meetings and hearings. We have an IBA.
We have a new public meeting. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Shrewsbury Wetlands Bylaw and Regulations, that Michael Bellino of 15 Water Street, Shrewsbury, has filed an after-the-fact request for determination of applicability to remove 2 trees and stockpile soil at 15 Water Street.
Yes, Mike.
So,
Please state your name and
oh,
address.
Mike Bellino, 15 Water Street, Shrewsbury.
Right ahead.
Yeah, so, I guess the first thing I need to do is apologize because I've taken the trees down. I actually know within 100 feet you're supposed to come to the commission. I didn't really understand that taking 2 dead trees down was something I needed to do. So for that, I certainly apologize. The 2 trees were dead. The dirt that was moved because the crane needed to come in, and they needed to have a platform to put the crane in place, and yeah, that's what I did. I'm sorry.
So you didn't bring any new material in?
I did, yep. So there's a letter from the arborist saying the trees are dead. I mean, I said,
I'm not on the trees, I mean new dirt. Did you bring new dirt in?
Well, we'll take the new material.
no. Everything that, so at the end of 15 Water Street, it's dead ends, and there's a road that is filled with dirt and leaves that has been piling up over 50 years. So there was a hump in the front. When I first got there, of course, 25 years ago, the hump was a lot smaller, but just debris just kind of builds up. So the crane company had to push the debris forward in order to get the crane settled. When the trees were taken down and then the crane left, the excavator pulled the dirt back and actually repitched the road to the right-hand side, which is the way it was when I first moved there 20 or 25 years ago. I've been kind of digging out a little path over the years because Water Street comes down to a dead end, as I said, with that hump of stuff. It turns into a little pond. So I've had to, over the years, just make a little pathway for the water to go. So now they regraded it back to the way it really was. And that's why I had to disrupt and move the dirt.
So I have this picture here.
Yep, that, I
So
think,
the pile that's at the end of the street has been taken back and put back where it was?
yep, about half of it has. They pulled half of it back.
And then where's the rest of it?
Well, it's right there.
Was it there before?
Yep, the hump gets a little bit bigger as it goes that way, so. I wanted the pitch to be on the right-hand side, like I said, which is the way it was. So if I brought all that dirt back, then I'd have to kind of dig that little, I had a little channel that went from the left side and turned and went over started on the left side and went over to the right side. Now it's pitched only on the right side, wide. And I think I have a picture of the final at the end, which you can kind of see there's still a little bit of a hump back there, but no.
Did you, you took these trees down, did you plant anything else?
I did. So I didn't plant anything after the fact, but last year I planted 4 trees, which there's a picture right there of the 4 trees that I planted last year. Now understand, I live at Kings Point. I have 55 trees on my property, 21 of which were pine trees. And taking 2 down, you know, I love trees, so I did plant.
So these 3 trees were these
They're
pine trees?
like a year and a half. And they're probably 25 feet from where those 2 trees came down. And then selfishly, when I cut the trees down, I wanted to leave 2 stumps. I only left 1, not knowing that that's something that you would require. I planned to leave 2 so I could selfishly stack my wood, but when they were doing this, I had a phone call. I went inside to take care of the business, and I came out and they brought that other stump down to grade. So.
Any questions?
Diane?
No questions.
Arthur?
When they brought the stump down to grade, did they leave the roots in the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's, I don't know, 10 inches high.
Okay.
I was all bummed out.
What kind of trees did you plant?
There were 4 arborvitae. And they're pretty big. So I planted them, they were 10 feet up, 10 feet, so there were 3 10-footers I put in.
You left one stump taller and the other one.
Yeah,
really great.
so
Okay.
I had planned to leave two tall stumps, and they took the one tree down, and they took the first tree down before I could actually tell them to leave the stump 6 feet high. So one is 6, one is down to 10 inches.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I mean, this was basically a follow-up for.
I think I talked to you on the
Yeah,
phone.
we
I'm
talked to
really
him on the
sorry.
rest, he didn't know, so.
Yeah.
The only question is, we used to have a do not dump sign at the end of that road, do you know if that got backed
Oh,
up?
there's a picture of it.
Okay, I just don't.
Nope.
That
I
was
took
my
it down, I
big
had to take it down. I was actually all nervous about taking it down, but, because
Yeah, that was,
everything
you want
else
to make
was.
sure it got back up, but so
Yep,
that was the
it's
biggest
up.
issue I had from that. No.
Yep.
Alea?
I don't think I have any questions.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, sir? Can you come up and state your name?
My name is Mike Costa. I represent 12 and 14 Water Street, Shrewsbury. And I beg to differ with this guy. I've been here for 75 years. Lived there since I was a kid. That lump that he's talking, he put it there. He had dirt work done to his house and piled it on our side of the road. And now the town plow cannot get all the way down the street. I have a tenant living in 12 Water Street. 12 Water Street, and my sister lives in 14 Water Street. I built these houses 40 years ago, when my dad's house burned out. I went to the commission. At that time, Mr. Gulch was the head of the commission, and I did all the paperwork I had to do. And I followed the rules. I put the hay bales, I put everything. This guy's been, I had bigger with him because of one thing, he's been dumping down there himself. And I have photographs of him dumping. The stuff that's been there is being dumped. And it was pushed within 20 feet, not even 20 feet, to the lake.
Can you just show me on this picture, there's a sign that says no dumping?
That was done, I asked for that to be put in from
So,
the old highway department, check night.
so my question is, there's the sign, but the trucks can't get beyond that sign because that's not the street, correct?
Well, the street, just to be correct, where that sign is right now, 20 feet beyond that is Water Street.
But is that where the sign was always?
Well, no, Jack put it there because he couldn't get further in. And he was supposed to go down and clean it. I volunteered to clean, to bring my backhoe, to grade it back off to the street side. Street light. I have equipment there. I can show you if you want. I can put a rod down there. The old asphalt is down there.
But my question is, I mean, you can't go beyond that point anyway, if the sign's in the middle of that.
Well, that sign is on a purpose. Oh, it's not even permanent. It's not a permanent sign.
But they can't plow beyond that sign because the sign is in, correct?
Well, yeah, now it's in the middle. It was to one side.
But that's where the town put it.
That's what Jeff, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's been in there for quite a while.
No.
Well, Jack's been retired for quite a while, so.
Oh, how many years? It hasn't been that long, because I was with him. I mean, Jack and I held around. Yeah, he's retired, yes. I mean, I don't know what to say to you, I can show you pictures. The dumping there, it's done by him, and other neighbors. I mean,
And other neighbors?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
he's
I'm sorry,
speaking.
I'm a little taken back.
Well, he's speaking. Let him
Yep,
speak.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I've been asked every time I have somebody come down here, I'm too old now to take care of the property. Okay, so we clean our yard, I have the landscape guys come all the time, I have no problems. I have no problems with what this gentleman's doing. Okay, I just want it back the way it was. And if you could check with the highway department, they're having a hard time plowing past my driveway. Okay, they go down there with an LED machine. It's a big machine. You can pick it up and toss it over the side. But there's no reason to. I mean, the street, actually, 12 and 14, I used the same driveway because I built it 40-something years ago. Okay, and 12 and 14 Water Street share one driveway. And that driveway is the original driveway of 14 Water Street. That was the old Deering mansion that burned.
But this doesn't look, this looks like he graded everything off, and the sign is back where it was, and it looks essentially the way it should, I think. This is where it was when he
No, that wasn't like that. when
He did that, that's what he did.
Yes.
Then he put it back to this. You're saying that's not correct?
Well, it's correct to a certain point. Well, the wood over there is a
Well, the wood's not there anymore, correct?
no
The wood is still there. I'm waiting for it to get picked up. It hasn't been picked up yet, but it is absolutely not gonna, it is absolutely going to get taken away.
All right.
When was this done?
Like a month ago?
Once, okay,
Yeah, it's fairly recent.
okay.
Yeah, it's been about a month.
So essentially, the way this is the way it has been for some years, without the stumps, without the wood.
I'll go with that.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
Well, I'd like to see it to be the end of the street. It would help him out too, if it was just the way it was so many years ago.
Your issue is that the street needs to be
No,
visible.
well, actually, I called Jack up and I said, where he put the sign. I go like this, but he couldn't get back there. And it's one of those things that to do with spur of the moment, to stop the dumping. And that was the big thing, was to stop the dumping.
What is?
What has been dumped?
Dirt, leaves, nobody wants to pick up their leaves.
Yard waste?
Your yard waste,
So
those are yard waste.
grass, leaves,
Yeah.
sticks, dirt?
Dirt, everything
Okay.
like that.
Okay,
I mean, it's like truthfully, I mean, I built a gorgeous house. He's done a lot of work on his house, made his house look beautiful too. It's just dumping there, and there's no reason. And what I got really upset about was when my dad's house burned down, which was a legit thing, it was an accident, okay? I had to come in front of you, well, wasn't you people, it was the older boy, and I applied by the thing. He asked me for 2 bales of hay, I did that. These guys can do their stuff without getting permission from you guys. And that got me ticked off too, because I hate to say this, it took me 1.5 years to get all the permits to do the work I had to
No, I
do.
understand. It's a process. We're just trying to figure out what we can do to make this correct. And we'll discuss it a little bit more and we'll see what we can
Could
do.
I just make a suggestion? If they just grade it back to where it was right down, I wouldn't go right down to the water. There was a bunch of little stubby trees growing, because I think Jack's going to do that day when people going down there because of the beach. Okay. I mean, there's no reason even if the dumping shouldn't be done. I mean, for yard waste, I mean, the town office pick up on the yard waste. Okay, I just don't understand why, and the other thing is, this thing here is right even with my driveway.
That's where the town put it, correct?
Oh,
I
yeah,
put it
that's right,
exactly where
That's where the town put it. So I'm not gonna, if that's where the town put it, that's where it's been. for the
Okay,
last
well,
5 or
that's,
6 years.
okay, I'm not blaming the bishop, I mean, I'm blaming the town, I gotta see.
That's a sub-
Yeah.
I'm not
as I
gonna
said-
get into the sign. All right, let's discuss some of what we can do. Let me get what this gentleman has to say.
Yeah, so when I bought the house in 2001 and moved down there, there was not a sign, but the road ended and you couldn't, there was stuff there, you couldn't go any further. So if he's talking about having the thing cleared all the way down to the water, I know nothing about that. I've been there since 2001 and it's impossible, it was impossible to walk down to the water then. And as far as people dumping there, there's not a lot of dumping going on there.
but there is some.
Very little.
Some.
You know, sometimes when trees fall down, when branches come down on the road, I see neighbors throwing a stick there. I mean, it is not a dump site at all. That's not happening. People aren't putting dump trucks down there, pickup trucks, like, nothing like that.
It's a neighborhood yard waste center.
It's not even, I mean, everyone has to pay to get their leaves and stuff out of there. No one's taking their leaves and bringing them down there on a yearly basis. There's just,
The
Again-
town does not come in and remove bags of Yard
No, no,
waste?
we're talking about two different things. She said it's a neighborhood yard waste. And I'm saying, no, it's not a neighborhood yard waste, meaning there's hundreds of more bags of leaves that are taken away than may possibly end up in that little area.
So, would you be receptive to taking out some of the pile at the end and removing it?
I suppose I could look at this.
I mean, you don't,
I mean, I don't know why I should, but it's gonna cost me, I didn't really do anything wrong. And
well,
I feel like, now I feel like I'm carrying the
well,
burden.
you gotta carry a little bit of.
I feel like I'm carrying the
because
burden.
You kinda cut the trees down without getting the permit,
Well,
so
they were dead.
I guess, but.
I mean, they were dead.
We can discuss that, but they were within 100 feet of the wetlands, so.
Right.
I know they're dead, you have a letter, so we'll give you that. Maybe you could take a load, just one load of that
Okay.
material away.
Sure,
and
yes.
then- And away out. That-
Way up.
Away, not, don't dump it here, take it someplace and dispose of it when they come to get the log or something, and that will probably.
Sure, I think that's fair. I just want to do what's right. Again, I apologize for what I did. There was no malice intended. I just didn't really think asking for permission to take dead trees down was something I needed to do.
All right.
So I'm happy to do that.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we can talk to the highway department, we can't make any promises, but we can see maybe about cleaning some low leaves out, moving that sign back a bit.
Okay,
I'll reach to the highway first.
all right.
Yeah, I'm not,
All right, so, any other questions from the audience? Everybody else okay here?
Do we have a need, I've not done a site visit, is there a need to replant at the site where those two trees?
so
No?
there's, where the big red pine went down, there's a smaller oak tree that's there now. And when I say smaller, it's maybe 12 feet tall. So as I look there now, and again, I have 55 trees on my property for a reason, because I like to have privacy. I like, when you look at the house, not to be able to look into the house. So I really think that oak tree is just gonna blossom quite the area, because those two trees were in proximity of, probably 12 feet of one another. So,
Would somebody like to make
Mr. Chair, I move that we issue a negative determination of applicability for 15 Water Street, with the condition that the remaining logs and one load of debris be removed from the site.
A second.
all in favor?
All right.
negative is a positive.
Negative is a positive, yes.
I just want to make sure it's counterintuitive.
Sorry.
It's a tricky one, but you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Congratulations on
Thank
your years
you.
here.
All right.
We have a new public hearing. Let's see. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Shrewsbury Wetlands Bylaw and Regulations that Mohammed Atiq, 19 Lantern Lane, Shrewsbury, has filed a request for determination of applicability for the removal of trees within the 100-foot buffer zone at 19 Lantern Lane.
Thank you. Mohammed Atiq, 931 Lane. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Mohammed Atiq. We recently moved in Shrewsbury. We bought this place a couple months ago, but we moved a few weeks ago. While we were in a couple of weeks, I noticed that some of the trees are very close to the property, the branches, not even like maybe a few feet, 5-6 feet away from the windows. So I called a couple of companies to get an estimate to just have the branches cut, so we could have it cleared away from the 12, 13, 14 feet away from the house. And there's 3 or 4 different companies came in to give me an estimate just to cut the branches. We're not talking about cutting the trees. And while these guys were there, 3 of the company mentioned, they pointed to me 1, 2, 3, 4 trees. They said, you need to cut these trees. And not just that, he went in with his hand in the base of the tree, and he just took a bunch of debris. He said, look, this is all rock. And sooner or later, it's gonna come down. He said, what I can do is I can cut the branches on this side, your side, and if it goes away, it's gonna go on the other side. Well, it doesn't help, because the other side is all wood, so there's a path that goes to the school, spring school. A lot of kids walks on that one, so, okay, so it's not fair the other side. You know, either the tree goes there or it comes here. It's unsafe on the both ends of it. So we are requesting to, remove some of those, couple of those trees. They are they call them, two large hickory trees that he's talking about. And they are small, 3 cherry trees, which already are dead. While we moved in, they had 0 leaves on them, which is backside of the house. We're not gonna remove the stumps. We're gonna leave the stumps there along with the roots. We just wanna have the cut, like leave it like a couple feet of stumps if they need it to be. That's what the request is for. Last couple, now the leaves are not there. Now if I look at the branches closely, it's a few of the thick heavy branches, they already separated from the tree. They're just hanging, but it's supposed from the other branches.
Are you gonna plant anything else?
If I needed to be, yes.
Okay, we're gonna put together and show you. Give us a quick recommendation. Bob?
No questions. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward what's going on.
Just to add on, I mean, we were just moved in, Mia was there, and she, because it's a new built property, I think she was there doing inspection and something, and I pointed to her, she saw that, she's the one, I thank you to her, because we didn't know how to process.
You're doing the right thing.
Pursued with that and all that, she basically educated with us all that, so.
Well, you did the right thing. Diane?
So, sometimes it's a really good idea to leave a fairly high stump. It's good habitat for insects and animals, and that's what that zone is for.
We would love to do that, actually, there would be something the kids play with. Build something around it.
What height would be correct, do you think?
How far away are the trees from your house? How many
So
feet?
the 2 hickory trees that are dead, maybe 12, 13 feet, 14 if that. I don't know the exact measurement. And the cherry tree, they are in the backyard, about 18 feet or so. Not very whole lot of grass between the yard, the land between the trees and that. If I'm facing the house, the right side of the house.
Leia's making measurements. The back.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Probably about 20 feet from the house.
About 20 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so the wetland is to the rear of the home, but this large shadow is the wetland.
Yeah. I mean, there are some trees in the front too, but we're not gonna cut those, we're just gonna have the branches cleaned up.
So the higher the stump, the more habitat there is. It's a trade-off. The tree will eventually fall, that trunk will eventually fall. When it falls, you don't want it to damage anything. So, I would recommend, if you're okay with leaving an 8-foot stump, that would be great. If you're okay with leaving something that's taller, that's fine too.
Even if those hickory trees, I'm not even sure if they would have an 8-foot stem. If there is a space, yeah, we will leave a good amount. If it's not 8 feet, maybe 6 feet or something like that, or maybe 5. I don't know, I mean, because they go stump up, they spread really quick. And some of these branches are going just zigzag everywhere.
You take the main trunk of the tree so that there shouldn't be any other branches coming off. And if
Okay.
the tree's already dead, it shouldn't regrow. The roots might send up some short things for a little
But we'll
while.
leave as much stems as we can.
Okay.
Another 6 to 8 foot. So,
And those 2 hickory trees you're talking about, right? What about the cherry tree in the back?
Same thing would go for the cherries.
Okay.
Do you have any recommendations on what we should plant?
Do you want a tree that will grow tall and provide shade for your house? Or do you want something that's shorter?
Sure.
Shorter than that? Okay.
We got plenty of trees around us that provide shades. We're the last house in the street.
So redbud trees are native and they bloom very nicely in the springtime. Witch hazel trees are also short and I think they're interesting and pretty, and they're native.
You said red bird,
Redbud
but D-U-D,
or witch hazel,
U-H-I-C-H? Hazel.
TCH, yeah.
Hazel.
We'll recommend those in the, when we write.
Oh, okay, oh, that's
So
great.
you'll have it when we make the motion.
Sure, makes it easier for me.
Okay. All set.
First,
No additional questions.
Andy,
I'm all set, thank you.
away.
So I'm sorry, where's the cherry located?
In the back. I would say, excuse me,
Oh, yeah,
right here.
okay,
That's the one actually.
yeah.
And when we moved in, there was some leaves on other trees. This one had nothing on it.
Huh. Okay. I can send you a follow-up email too with Martha's recommendations for the trees. And when I was on the property, you had discussed some of the removal of some smaller trees, probably about this size. Was that, you no longer needed to do that?
We do. we do.
Okay, so those are also trees. They also need to be counted. So any tree that you remove, you need to plant a tree in place. So it doesn't,
No, these trees, I mean, I don't know if we have enough space to plant all the trees. It has to be all there or different area we can plant.
you can spread them out along because you now have a large grassed area available to you if you wanted to spread them out. And along the rear of the property, it does get pretty close to the wetlands before you, where it drops off. So it would be good to add some additional trees back there to kind of enhance the space, because it's oddly cleared back there. And it wasn't grassed, so it's kind of just odd. So it might do well with some trees there.
Okay.
But yeah, and probably getting a final number of how many trees. I don't know if the board would require it tonight or if that could be submitted after the
We
fact.
should have a good idea. How many trees are you cutting down?
Well, he's talking about a, sorry. He's talking about was a, two hickory trees he was talking about. And then what she's talking about, there are four small trees, which is 3 inches diameter.
And what are they?
So a total of 6 trees?
Are those cherries or are they?
2 hickory, 2 cherry, and 3 that he's talking about. They are 2 small, then ash, A-S-H.
Ash.
Okay.
So a total of 7 trees?
And the ash are completely dead?
Yes. No, he's saying is ash goes the small name. Yes, they are dead cherry trees along the driveway.
No, not the cherries, the ash.
The 3-inch caliber trees.
Oh, no, they are 3-inch diameter.
Are they
Yeah.
dead though, or are they alive?
Why do you want to take them out,
Yeah.
I guess is the question.
He said because they're going towards the house, they're not getting their sunlight. And he said, they already like that. He said they're gonna kept going that way because they have so many bunch of big trees behind them and they can't get the sunlight. So he said they're going towards it because that's where the sun hits. Their direction has been changed.
I don't think you need to take out the whole tree in that case. You could trim it if it becomes a problem with the house,
Sure,
but a
I mean-
3-inch tree is pretty young still.
That was our original plan, to just have trim all these trees.
Yeah.
And when they came in, that's where we came if we find out. But if we can get away with it, just trim it, sure.
Sure,
They don't
and
bother us.
so ash have been really affected by a blight, and if these ash are healthy, that would be great, because they are actually native, and maybe they're doing well with this blight, I don't know. But if they are, maybe you could leave them and just trim them to prevent them from going too far into the yard. Trees like to grow all together. They love that. And their roots like it, they like that. They're not asking to be one at a time like lollipops. And they'll be okay.
They'll be healthier if they grow together.
They will.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I could get away with it without cutting a tree, would be nice for the fireman's reason.
Yeah.
All right, so how many of those trees are you going to trim?
2 hickory and 3 cherries and,
Trim, the ones you're not going to remove.
The 4 small 3-inch caliber trees.
yeah,
So there's 4 trees you're gonna
we're
trim.
gonna trim them.
So there's 3 that you're going to cut down.
2 hickory and 3 cherries.
2 hickories.
So you're cutting 5 trees down,
And 3 we're gonna trim them.
and 3 you're gonna trim. That makes 8.
9 to 50 trees.
I'm trying to get a total amount of the trees that you, let's get this. How many trees are you going to, did you want to cut down? And how many trees
You're
do
gonna cut
you
down-
want to trim?
We're gonna cut down 2 hickory tree, 3 cherries,
7, so 5.
That's 5.
that's 5. And the 3 trees that he's talking about, we're just gonna trim them.
So
Okay.
great. So that's 8, total 8.
So that's 8.
Okay. Okay.
So will we be suggesting replacing tree for tree,
All right, yeah.
1 for 1? Okay. So you'll be replanting those 5 trees with red bud and witch hazel, or
Either one.
something else,
Yep.
either one.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
Is there anything from the audience?
Nobody from the audience, correct? No.
Mr. Chair, I move that we issue a negative request, negative determination of applicability for 19 Lantern Lane with the condition, for the removal of 5 trees and the trimming of 3 trees with the condition that 5 trees be planted, or 5 large shrubs be planted. For example, red buds or witch hazels.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. They're all set. You got a negative determination, which is good, and they have the amount of trees that you'll be replacing, and they'll give you the names. You can mix and choose which ones you want. Correct?
So I'll either send out, or you can come and pick up the negative determination, which will be the permit itself, and then you can cut the trees, and that will have the special conditions. And then I'll also send you an email with the names, with the species that we mentioned, as well as the Shrewsbury tree planting guidelines, which is a exhaustive list of tree species that are native to the area. And you can just go wild on it if you want. But otherwise, you're good to go.
All right, great, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep, we're ready.
We have a new public hearing. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Town of Shrewsbury Wetlands Bylaw and Regulations, that Scott Charpentier, 36 Main Street, Northborough, Mass., has filed a notice of intent for the removal of a dam and restoration of a stream at 134 Reservoir Street.
We're attending remote, and there's a little bit of feedback, so we kind of can't hear you guys very much there. I just wanted to heads up, but can you guys at least hear us?
No.
We can hear you loud and clear.
We're being moved.
I'm moving you as much as my HDMI cord will allow me, so you were as close as I can get you.
Thank you.
It is certainly helping.
Oh, good. Aaliyah?
Is the mic on your computer picking us up for them? Is that what's being used?
Probably. Yep.
Feedback.
This is being recorded, they can get it. Okay.
Okay, so we're planning to also share our screen. I don't know if I'm assuming there's some sort of screen maybe in the room there right now.
Yes, you are on the big screen, so we will be able to see you very well also when you share your screen.
All right, amazing. I'm gonna hand it over to Scott to start things off, and then we'll reintroduce the whole project team and give us an actual presentation.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Commissioner, for having us tonight. I'm Scott Charpentier, Public Works Director in Northborough. I'm representing, the community of Northborough for this notice of intent filing. It is for the removal of Northborough Reservoir Dam. The dam was constructed in the late 1800s for a water supply for the town of Northborough. It has ceased being a water supply for a long time. The reservoir is entirely owned by the town of Northborough, as is a perimeter around the dam. The dam was determined by the Office of Dam Safety to be in poor condition, and they ordered us to either remove it or perform a phase 2 inspection. So in light of the use no longer being needed by the town of Northborough, we decided to go forward with the dam removal and ecological restoration project. So we have Weston and Sampson as our engineers who have gone through quite a few permitting hurdles thus far. The Office of Dam Safety, MEPA, Chapter 91. There's a long with the Army Corps. And we're here before you to present the project. We're also going before the Boylston Conservation Commission, as this project location bridges both communities. And I'm happy to turn it over to Weston and Sampson, our design and permitting engineers, Haley Page and Timothy Blair.
Thanks, Scott. So I'm gonna share my screen. We have just a few things to share with you all to help. All right. Can everybody see this here?
Yep. Yes.
Haley, can you see figure 1?
I can put this bigger one.
All right. So the project area is quite large, covers a lot of ground and water. We'll start with kind of a 10,000-foot overview of the project. Scott alluded to it earlier. So the project involves removal of the Northborough Reservoir Dam. So the dam itself is this embankment. It's an earthen dam. Haley, can you see my mouse moving around?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. So the dam itself encompasses this area here. The dam includes a stone masonry spillway towards the right side. And the dam impounds the Northborough Reservoir along Roston Hill Brook. Roston Hill Brook enters from this area over here, and it exits via the dam spillway through a culvert beneath Reservoir Street into the downstream area. Northborough Reservoir itself is an approximately 6-acre impoundment. As Scott mentioned, that impoundment is created by the Northborough Reservoir Dam, and again, the spillway essentially sets the reservoir level. And the scope of the proposed dam removal project will involve the area insert kind of this oddly shaped red area. That's the limit of proposed construction, limit of disturbance. And you'll note how a portion of that area is within the town of Shrewsbury, and the remaining portion is within the town of Boylston. Most of the invasive work that will be associated with the project is located on the Boylston property, on the Boylston side, and however, there will be some ancillary work occurring within the Shrewsbury area. However, to kind of give you all a picture of what this project involves, we'll talk briefly about some of the work that is occurring on the Boylston side. So, moving on, these are the design plans that have been submitted with the NOI. The property, or the municipal boundary line between Shrewsbury and Boylston is this yellow line that I just highlighted there, with the Shrewsbury being on the left side and Boylston being on the right. So again, the Northborough Reservoir Dam is a soil embankment, and we have the kind of the focus of the project is on the Boylston side, the existing spillway. In order to remove Northborough Reservoir Dam, the project will involve removal of the spillway itself, again, which is on the Boylston side, and we will be replacing that spillway with a lower channel that will connect the remaining small impoundment to the existing culvert below Reservoir Street. The existing spillway will be removed. Will be removed to a depth of about 8 feet below its current elevation. So that will essentially leave a smaller impoundment area behind the dam. There will still be a small dam remaining. However, one of the objectives of this project is to essentially remove the dam such that it will not be considered a jurisdictional structure in the eyes of the Massachusetts Office of Dam Safety. Therefore, removing some of the operating and maintenance costs associated with the dam from the town of Northborough, and also restoring some of these segments of Rawson Hill Brook that have been flooded by the reservoir for many years. So this plan here essentially shows what the overall site would look like post-construction. So we have the channel here, which has been designed based off of a investigated reference reach further upstream on Rawson Hill Brook. We have the section, this section of the former Rawson Hill Brook that will be restored back to its original state passively after this the breach channel is constructed over at the spillway, and this area here being what will remain as the impoundment, kind of when all is said and done. Along with kind of the main part of the project, which is constructing this channel, there will be some ancillary work occurring within Shrewsbury, and that work will generally include preparing the site for construction activity. Access to the site will be on one side of the site will be from Reservoir Street, or on the Shrewsbury side will be from Reservoir Street. Access is proposed along the top of the dam, going from left to right to gain access to the main work area, or the proposed channel area. There's also existing stone riprap on the upstream side of the embankment that will no longer be needed once the reservoir is lowered. So to conserve materials and to repurpose materials that are currently on the site, we are proposing to salvage or harvest some of that riprap, or majority of that riprap, from the upstream slope of the dam, and use that, because it's been weathered over the years, It's nice and well-rounded. To repurpose that and reuse it as a durable channel lining for this new section, or for the channel that will replace the spillway. Along with that, there will need to be some minor clearing of selective clearing of trees that would obstruct access. Some trees will be cut flush to the ground surface, or proposing to be cut flush to the ground surface, while some others will require complete removal with stumps and roots. Most of the complete tree removals will be on the Boylston side. However, there will need to be some selective clearing on the Shrewsbury side. Along with that work on the Shrewsbury side, there's a former intake structure right in this area. Normally you don't see it. It's been already partially demolished to just about the normal water surface elevation in the reservoir. That, because it would represent a hazard and would likely be not really pleasant to look at, because we're lowering the project will effectively lower or shrink the impoundment area and lower it by up to 8 feet. As part of this project, that remnants of that old structure will be demolished down to the reservoir bottom. There's also, over in this area on the Shrewsbury side, it's the foundation of an old building, it was a pump house building, and that area was not adequately backfilled at the time, and with increasing rain and just over time, there's been some sinkholes that have developed over the top of that structure. So to remediate those issues, we're proposing to essentially excavate out some of that unstable soil and replace it so that there's a more stable, safe surface to be walking over. With the overall proposed conditions, the existing reservoir area, which is essentially this blue line, it comes around the whole project area. The area between the existing reservoir edge and the proposed for edge, we're anticipating that will revert back to vegetated wetlands and riverfront area. And try to keep it short, but Haley, I guess I can kick it over to you to discuss wetland impacts.
Great. So my name is Haley Sage. I am the environmental scientist working for this notice of intent. We did include these detailed tables in our project narrative in Appendix A of our notice of intent, where we did include the overall impacts for the project as a whole that spans between Boylston and Shrewsbury, but I also broke apart just the impacts within Shrewsbury on this table. So we will be impacting land underwater, bank, bordering landfill flooding, bordering vegetated wetlands, and riverfront area. I can walk through these numbers, but for the sense of time, we just assume that with dam removal and ecological restoration limited projects, that a lot of the wetland resource areas that are lost will likely not be lost, but converted to different resource areas. So you'll notice on the tables that were included, there is a net change column. So this column represents the difference between the wetland resource area existing on the site versus the wetland resource area that will be proposed upon the completion of the site. Also on this page in the narrative, TJ walked through majority of the impacts proposed that were within Shrewsbury. One thing I do want to just stress is that it is currently proposed that the removal of all trees will only be for temporary site access within Shrewsbury. There's a total of 8 trees to be removed, and which are located within the riverfront area and the local 15-foot buffer zone. Those trees will be removed to the around, I believe, but the root ball will remain. So hopefully post-construction, those can be restored. Otherwise, temporary erosion and sediment controls will be placed throughout the construction period and removed, and areas will be smoothed and reseeded. That will be temporarily impacted. Otherwise, I think I'm gonna open it up for questions at this time. And if you do want me to talk through any more specific impacts, if you might not have had a chance to deeply review the narrative, feel free to ask us.
Okay, Bob,
I have no questions.
Diane?
I have a couple questions. One is, so, I mean, the dream, of course, is to rewild the stream and to have it be a cold water fishery so that, say, trout could live there at some point. But I believe that there are other issues downstream, right? That this is not the only impediment in this stream. Is that correct? Yeah. So I think then my question would be this. Does this prepare the river to return to cold water fish habitat as much as possible? At some point in the future, it should multiple towns agree to work together on this project?
That's a great question. So we did look into this through our NEPA process. This is something that was brought up in relation to being a cold water fisheries and the temperatures that could occur with this change. We did include the appendix C of the notice of intent or water temperature analysis, which we did determine that through the restoration of the stream, it is anticipated that the water temperatures would become colder and also increase the connectivity between upstream and downstream. I don't know if that answers fully to your question, but that's at least the analysis that we've performed, and I can speak intelligently to it this time. So if you have further questions on that, I can try my best to see if I can clarify any further.
Yeah, I might have further questions later on because I'd love to work on a project like that. But I have a different question for it now. At some point, I assumed that there were pipes put underground to pipe the water away from the reservoir prior to 1950 when it was shut off. And those pipes are probably still underground. Does anyone know exactly where those pipes are and what they're made out of?
Yes, we have a, let me, I can, my screen back up here. So those pipes are, they're shown, they're illustrated here. So there's the remnants of what was historically called gatehouse number 1. There used to be, there were valves located in this structure that allowed the release of water through conduits that go under the dam, under Reservoir Street, and discharge into this, what's been identified as an intermittent stream currently. So this represents the section of the original stream diversion. These, as part of this project, these conduits will be inspected. They will be properly abandoned with by filling them with a non-shrinking cementitious mixture so that they don't represent hazards or potential for sinkhole hazards down the line.
Are they made out of lead? Are they made out of iron? What are they made out of?
That would be part of the investigation before any work is actually conducted on those pipes. They would be carefully exposed and documented as to their material, their condition. There would be a closed caption television inspection performed on the pipes before they're abandoned. And if there's if there are
other lines of that era were typically unlined cast iron, thick walls, unlined cast iron.
And are those the only pipes?
The only other pipes known were abandoned when the structure that Timothy was talking about that is to the west side, if north is north, on that drawing, that abandoned structure is going to be further demolished and properly backfilled and compacted. Those pipes were long abandoned years ago when the water supply was discontinued.
And I only ask because if they were lead, then there's the possibility that someone in that area who was using, their house had a well, that they might be drinking contaminated water. I just would like to make sure that that was completely clarified.
To Scott's earlier point, lead pipes were generally not used in dam construction. Because they were buried very deep below the ground, they were loaded pretty heavily. They were usually, like Scott said, thick-walled cast iron, or if they were more recent, ductile iron.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can you speak to why some of the dam will be left behind and a smaller impoundment will be created?
Yes. Because the breach because the breach will be conducted at the location of the existing spillway, which is on the Boylston side of the project area. That spillway does not represent that spillway was not constructed over the original stream channel. The location of the original stream channel is actually where those pipes were that I showed you just a minute ago. Through an alternatives analysis, it was determined that breaching the dam at the location of those pipes, which represent the location of the original stream, it would not be a feasible project to do that. The excavation would required to perform that would be very deep. It would be very disruptive to the overall area. A new culvert would need to be installed below an area that's shared by both Shrewsbury and Boylston, and there would need to be some of that work would also have to occur on a private property that is not owned by the town of Northborough, and overall it would be a generally cost prohibitive project. So the alternative to breach the dam partially at the existing spillway was selected as the most appropriate, and it does not. It will not fully remove the dam, or it will not remove the dam over its full height. It is essentially constructing a new spillway at a lower elevation that is more reminiscent of a natural stream environment, and it will remove the impediment to fish passage at this location. It will decrease the residents' time of water cycling into the impoundment area, which will in turn provide cooler water temperatures. So there are still a lot of benefits to this project. So I hope that answered your question.
I understand about alternatives analyses, and you have to go with the plan that's going to work for the conditions that you're working with. You'll still be removing some of the dirt, the soil from the dam? And if so, where will that go?
Excavated soil will be legally disposed of at an off-site receiving facility. A lot of these stone materials, there's existing stone riprap, there's cut ashlar stone masonry. We will be attempting to reuse a lot of that material and reincorporate it back into the channel that's being constructed. Again, most of that work is on the Boylston side of the project area. But generally, because from an overall earthwork standpoint, earth moving, this is mostly an excavating project. There's really virtually no filling. So it's soil materials that are excavated to form this channel will need to be disposed of off-site. There's just really no place to put them on the property.
I have one more question, if you'll indulge me. I'm trying to understand what your process will be for the trees that you proposed cutting on the Shrewsbury side in order to gain construction access, yes?
Yeah.
And then you said that you would leave the root ball. Are you assuming that the trees will resprout from the root ball? Is that the plan, or were you talking about replanting a little later?
We do not, so the trees on the Shrewsbury side of the project area, like Haley said, the intent is to cut those flush to the ground surface to facilitate access for construction vehicles. We are, Haley, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not currently proposing tree plantings on the Shrewsbury side of the project area. It wasn't our intent to really allow them to resprout. Cutting them flush with the ground surface, I'm not sure that would be a good assumption to make. I think listening to some of the earlier meetings, it sounds like Shrewsbury is an advocate for leaving a certain height of tree above the ground, but for construction access, that really wouldn't be doable.
There's some tree planting that's proposed in Boylston, along with restoring that bioengineered channel that's proposed. I know that's located in Boylston, but it is across the span of the dam. That's outlined in sheet C103 of the plan set, the planting plan for that. But as for Shrewsbury, if you're looking into the trees specifically that may be removed, sheet C101 outlines the 8 trees that are being proposed to be removed to the ground. Root balls will remain, so there's a possibility they could resprout, but if we're cutting it, like TJ said, flush to the ground, there's no 100% chance we know if they're going to be restored or not post-construction. Trees take quite some time to rebound from something like that.
Haley, can you touch on the vegetation process and the inbound constructed waterway that's coming from along Ruston Brook from the Ruston Dam?
From the upstream ridge?
Yeah.
Speaking to the vegetation wise, there is vegetation currently in the existing areas that outlet into the reservoir. As that stream naturally pours, there's no current plantings proposed, but there also is opportunity that possible trees that are existing on that upstream reach could start to spread into the areas that are now going to be theoretically considered riverfront area and bordering vegetated wetland. But we are hoping for a lot of natural restoration to occur in this area and trying to disturb, the least amount of area possible. But there is the general assumption that there is the opportunity, especially with the directly downstream, there is the presence also of a bordering vegetated wetland. So there's opportunity for natural restoration, but that's something, not necessarily like in a 2-year post-construction period might be evident, but come down the line 10, 20 years, as it naturally restores, there's opportunity, but that also comes back to, you know, making some assumptions.
It seems that if you're going for lowering the water temperature, that shading banks would be a good strategy to consider. Shading banks with vegetation, such as trees or shrubs. One more, I'm so sorry. You call out the invasives on one of your sheets. Can you speak to any plans that you might have for invasives control and management during this project?
Yep, so we did include an invasive species management plan. It was pretty extensive and it's found in Appendix N of the notice of intent. So on the sheet that you're referring to, sheet B103, you will see that it's outlined. There's a glossy buckthorn, purple loosestrife, Asiatic bittersweet, garlic mustard, Japanese knotweed. Those were the evidence species at the time of the investigation. And as for proposed treatment, it would come down to also, there's a couple different methods that we outlined in that management plan, and whoever was to perform would likely have to work with an environmental specialist to determine the correct methodology to be used. And also the Conservation Commission, you know, we don't want to be going out there spraying large amounts of herbicide just all over the place, but, you know, using more localized methods like the cut and dab method, usually is one that we likely would suggest. But if you want me to speak more through the invasive species management plan, I can, or if you need, I'm assuming you don't have a DP file number, so likely we get to see all of it again. And we can talk through things once we might have more time to do, or I'd be happy to share it and walk through some of the different methodologies that are proposed.
I needed to know that you're thinking about it. Thank you.
Oh, definitely. This is something that through the NEPA process, we went for a site walk and they saw it. They were like, oh, that needs to be your notice of intent to make sure. So we definitely did an extensive on-site review and came back and came up with a couple of different management opportunities that could be used for those invasives. And I'm sure there's more that could have occurred since this original assessment was performed, but likely the same species, but possibility could be a little denser out there.
So I believe you stated that the reservoir was originally 6 acres in size. By breaching the dam, how large will this new impoundment be?
Ava, do you have a number offhand?
I don't have it offhand, but I could double check. I have the notice of intent open, so there's a good check within the project narrative. So if there's maybe another question, I think we put through your line that way.
So by decreasing the reservoir itself, you're creating some new brooks or streams along or emptying into that new impoundment and exiting the reservoir. How does this affect the abutters with creating new riverfront on their property? Does that adversely affect their ability to do anything with their property by creating new riverfront?
Most of the riverfront that is proposed to be restored, it reaches across the areas of the Northborough Reservoir parcels, but however, there is possibility, you know, we can't, with the assumption of natural restoration, we can't quite set the upstream reach on how it's going to exactly restore. So there is possibilities, but I believe at least on that fact sheet that TJ was sharing earlier with our assumptions, again, a lot of assumptions with restoration projects when we're assuming natural restoration. It looks as though there's possibility that it could encroach on the adjacent property that's located, let's see, east of the project area, but likely it would be located further away. But like we said, this is an assumption. We can't 100% say yes or no to that because we don't know how the stream is going to naturally restore.
So that seems kind of unfair, or it puts an unfair burden on these homeowners potentially.
Right, but I mean, that's something definitely to consider. But overall, you know, the project as a whole will be to, you know, much more improvements rather than impediments of the area. That's something we can.
Oops. Okay.
100% zoom in and answer your questions as well. But I believe at least we're not assuming under the current assumption of what our reach would be, that it will impact them. But like you said, we can't 100% say if it couldn't shift a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. There are some properties that are located in close proximity. But we can double check property lines and take a look into that if you would like.
Especially at the discharge, the one easterly of the discharge. And then in the inlet, there are two properties, west, there's one west, two west, I believe. And then, you know, there's a concern, this happened on another project we did, we removed a brook, and it created more riverfront, and it adversely affected another property that they wanted to develop. So I think there's the potential here to adversely affect some of these property owners, and I think it needs to be addressed in some manner.
Okay, we could look into that. I'm not sure quite exactly, but maybe we could work with you guys as well to get maybe any input that you may have. But we definitely can look into that to see what we can come up with, because
Maybe
that specific, you know, the section in Boylston, you know, we know that section where it's going to be located, but I understand the piece in Shrewsbury is a little bit more ambiguous.
maybe you could address that, ask the DEP what they've seen in the past when doing some of these projects. And one other thing, in cutting those 8 trees, can you, I think we'd probably ask that something be replanted in those areas as part of this too.
I think we definitely could look into that. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's like a ratio, you know, 1:1, if that's what's required, seeing where it could be placed throughout Shrewsbury.
We usually do
I'm not
like
sure
a
if
1-to-1.
applicable directly in the same exact spot, or, you know, if we need to look into the possibilities of locations along the dam where it might be able to potentially move.
Right, I
Would
mean,
it make sense, Gilly, to have more of a contiguous tree assessment, in that we're doing a lot of plantings just over the line on the Boylston side?
right, that's in Boylston,
Tree
but
removal primarily on the Shrewsbury side, it appears.
yeah, if you take those 8 trees down in Shrewsbury, it would be probably nice to have 8 trees put back someplace in Shrewsbury, that's all.
Okay, but definitely, I'm gonna make a note on that, so we can look into that. As for also your question on the impoundment prize, I can't track that down right now, but we can make sure to have that prepared, to present you with that number the next time we appear, just to make sure it's somewhere in here, but I don't wanna waste time with everyone scrolling through documents trying to find, because I know we did have to calculate that as well for our MIPA submission.
Okay, I'm all set for now.
I also had tree questions, but you've addressed them all, so that's perfect.
Look at that, 2 for 1.
No, I mean, it's a very interesting process. You know, we've had a few conversations with Scott. I mean, we own 3 dams in town too, so it's been interesting what the process is. I will point out that the town owns the parcels to the south, so as far as the road front, it'll have any effect, but maybe a couple of parcels to the north, but it's certainly an interesting project to watch.
Alea?
Oh, boy. You need to turn it on, just die. I don't think I have any questions at this point. I'm going to prevent us from losing them.
Diane?
Okay, quick question here. The culvert that you want to keep, I assume first that it's in good shape?
Yes.
Okay. The next question is, does it allow dry wildlife passage at this time? Yes. And that would... Yep.
She's not playing when she says she's gonna die. Okay, it'll be a minute and then we'll
All right.
be back. Be wrapping up.
We'll take a recess. We'll take a few minute recess.
All right, Sorry about that. In that brief intermission, I had found the number of the impoundment size to circle back to that question before we jump back into the culvert question, if that's okay with everyone in the commission.
Yes.
Okay, so it will be 3.75 acres in size post-construction, so almost half the size of the existing.
Thank you.
And then as for the culvert, currently the existing culvert is not navigable by wildlife as there is a concrete stair step spillway. So pretty difficult for any wildlife to migrate up or down that. But post-construction, we do anticipate to have connectivity for wildlife to travel upstream and downstream through that culvert.
I'm sorry, could you say that a little more slowly because of the, just the reverberation of sound when it's like this?
Totally.
Yeah.
So currently the spillway is a concrete stair step. So you wouldn't be able, or wildlife wouldn't be able to navigate upstream or downstream because of that restriction. But post-construction, with the bioengineered channel to be put in place to connect into that culvert, it will be navigable by aquatic wildlife to travel both upstream and downstream through that culvert.
Okay, so that was my question. The culvert will be usable for aquatic life both upstream and downstream. And so that actually is a big step forward in terms of healing this river. That's wonderful. That's great. And that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Dry wildlife passage, not so much?
Sorry, could you repeat that too? It's also
So
a
will-
little echo on my end.
Will the culvert,
Dry wildlife passage.
Dry wildlife, I mean, theoretically, I believe it's big enough that if they did want to travel through, they would be able to. I don't know if necessarily any large birds might want to navigate, but they could. The culvert, I believe, is pretty big. TJ, you can confirm that.
It's wide, but it's just a few feet high. I mean, I can get in there. I'm 5'4". For scale.
okay.
The spillway has vertical training walls, so the constructed waterway will certainly facilitate dry wildlife, at least getting to the culvert.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're gonna go through the culvert, but I'll get to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah, kind of continuing off that culvert question, so it will be, the new stream crossing standards have it for 1.2, the size of the stream channel, it will be the full 1.2 of the channel, 1.2 times the size of the channel, sorry. Lenny. So does it meet stream crossing standards now, or will it?
Well, we're not actually doing anything to the culvert. The culvert itself is remaining. We're working upstream of the culvert.
Okay.
So we weren't under the impression that it would be subject to stream crossing standards.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure with the.
Yeah, the
with
culvert
discussion,
itself,
yeah.
the Boylston is
Other removed
it's
steps, I
staying
wasn't sure.
completely
Okay.
as is. It's actually relatively new.
Okay. And is that just a concrete bottom? Do you know what kind of?
Yes, concrete bottom.
Okay.
We've performed hydrologic and hydraulic calculations to determine that the culvert has sufficient capacity to convey flood flows when needed.
Okay. I think, and then, so the removal of the, gatehouse, what is it, number 1, the one that's currently inundated by water, is that proposed after the lowering of the stream? Or do you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Just so you don't have to do
And there
any
will,
work.
yeah, there will be floating turbidity silt curtains installed around that area. The intent is to keep the area of disturbance for that work as small as possible, as possible.
Awesome, okay. I think that's all my questions I had for tonight.
One question I have regarding that riverfront change. Can you give us a plan potentially showing, based on where you have the stream drawn now, where that could be? Probably isn't going to impact anything. Just so we could see it, and you can say it's potential, it's not exact.
Yeah, we should be able to do that, to show it a little. I think we have portions of it, but I don't know that we have the full 100-foot riverfront area and 200-foot off of that.
Yep.
And I think because it overlapped with a couple of the other buffer zones, we tried to clean it up, but we can make a plan that shows it more obvious there.
Thank you. All right, does anybody in the audience have any questions with regards to this? Sure, yes. Can you state your name and address?
Eric Moore, 108 Reservoir Street. So I guess I have a question about the area that is currently underwater, which will not be underwater, the area that's being exposed. And it sounds like the plan is really just to leave that material that's exposed as is and let it revegetate?
Yep,
Yes.
that's correct.
So I'm imagining that when that certain area is exposed, it may not be an ideal surface for revegetation. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff down in there. I mean, I've watched it over the years. The inflow channel that comes in at the very west end of the reservoir has become heavily silted up, and sedimentation has built up to a point where it's you can walk out on it. What used to be the reservoir. There's also an access that I think is where you're using you're creating a construction access there that connects to almost like a little beachfront on the reservoir. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you found a car or two in there, to be honest. So I guess I'm just wondering how ready that surface is going to be. I guess I had imagined that maybe you would stockpile that material and reuse it somehow, and possibly screen it and that sort of thing, but that's not the case.
It will take some time to reestablish. We can speak for Weston Sampson. We've been involved with a number of dams and reservoirs, some of which have been removed, others of which have had to open the bottom valves and just permanently keep the reservoirs drained for safety reasons. And it does take time, but those areas do reestablish, and they tend to reestablish quite nicely. I have some historic photographs of this reservoir at a point in time where it looks like maybe they were doing some repairs to the slopes of the dam's embankment. And so we have some photographs of the reservoir when it was drained for that work. And you can see there's a lot of nice boulders and cobbles scattered around the reservoir bottom. You can see the area where the stream was entering, and so it will take some time to reestablish. I would imagine that if a car or a truck is revealed, that it wouldn't just be left there. That would get taken care of.
So is there anything that can be done to accelerate that process, that revegetation? Can seed mix be distributed and spread?
Haley, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the generally preferred to be as minimally involved as possible and let the area take its natural course to restoration? The more you kind of try to caress it, that you could potentially be doing more harm than good.
That was the assumption that we kind of came across too, as working through designing this project. There's been a few others that have been involved in the design of this piece of things other than myself. It was deemed that the natural restoration would be preferred over spraying a seed mix in the area, as you know, things naturally occurring with, like I mentioned earlier about the trees that are native to that area would become grown in that area. And as TJ mentioned, if we bring in a seed mix, there's potential that other species may take, or there's also a potential we spread a seed mix and it's so early that nothing might happen. So I guess there's no 100% answer to that question. There's just Weston and Sampson's knowledge and assessments that have been performed when coming up with this design, and that's what we landed on.
Generally, your resources are better directed toward keeping the invasives out of the reestablished area and letting the natives, you know, run their course as opposed to kind of force it, as TJ indicated.
Right, and as that invasive species monitoring is to occur, you know, the areas would also be monitored for those invasive species as that was taking place within the actual areas that have been drawn down that were previously the reservoir.
Yeah, we're just as a small example, we're involved with the dam in Fitchburg, a heavily polluted site. Sediments are contaminated, and they were ordered by the state to keep the reservoir drained for safety reasons. And over the course of 3 years, that area has developed into a beautiful wildflower field, and it's kind of like a rose growing through the cracks of the sidewalk. So like I said, it does take time, but and it will restore. It will restore, and it'll be nice and pretty when if we let it run its course.
Got a couple more questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Just in terms of schedule, what is the duration of the project, and when would you anticipate starting?
On the construction schedule, we're still seeking construction funding, which will require town meeting action in April and subsequent funding applications. So a lot of the outbound schedule depends on when funds are allocated. So it requires town meeting action and then support from the Office of Dam Safety.
Do you have a cost estimate?
Not as of yet. We're getting through the permitting process first. Then a cost estimate will be prepared and funding will be sought thereafter.
I guess just the last thing, you know, this area has been historically kind of a dumping ground. You know, there's been a lot of dumping and trash going on along Reservoir Street there, back years and years. What will be done to prevent access into this area? Right now, you can see that they've put some big some logs and large boulders, the access area that you're proposing. But that will be opened up, that you can actually drive in at that point because of the grades.
We'll secure the vehicular access after construction activities are done. Again, the entire impoundment landmass underneath, as well as the perimeter above the high water mark, is owned by the town of Northborough. So I'm hoping that people aren't illegally dumping on Northborough land, but the construction access will be secured when the construction is completed.
They dump along the edge of Reservoir Street, like up against the dam, I guess.
Yeah, there's a couple pull-offs there. We have the same problem in Northborough. Anywhere somebody can quickly pull off of the truck and just empty what's in the back is problematic, I know.
I like the fact that you're proposing to reuse the granite stones there. I think that's great. I'm not opposed to the project, I just want to make sure it's done right and it isn't an eyesore to the people who live around there. Thank you.
That's our goal as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question. Can you explain the breaching process and how are you going to manage the discharge of water out and allowing for any wildlife or creatures to get to the lower impoundment?
Yeah, so,
I was gonna say, TJ, why don't you start, and I could speak to the wildlife, you kind of did an
Okay.
assessment on that.
This will be performed in a controlled manner. To begin, the contractor will be required to essentially begin siphoning from the reservoir side of the dam and discharging it directly into the culvert below the spillway. That will have to happen at a rate which the withdrawal rate exceeds the inflow rate, so that it will initiate a reservoir drawdown. That drawdown will take some time to complete, but essentially the reservoir will need to be drawn down via siphoning or pumping, bypassing the main work area into the culvert, and that will need to, once the elevation of the reservoir has been drawn down from 444.2, which is the normal level, down to 436, which is essentially the level of the proposed channel. Once that has occurred, the contractor will have to place a small portable temporary sandbag cofferdam. That's really just to prevent the downstream work area. The jumping jacks, hang on. Okay, all right. Hey, this office. That cofferdam will really just be a protective barrier for the main work area, which will be between the cofferdam and the culvert. So as they're constructing that breach, the water level in the reservoir will be maintained with maintenance pumps at elevation 436. And then once the channel is constructed, the contractor can remove the cofferdam and let water slowly flow into the channel. As for fish passage, fish don't currently migrate from upstream to downstream or really downstream to upstream. And so there isn't any provisions specified for fish passage during that period, with the understanding that once the project is done, we will have provided a connection to a currently interrupted section of the river.
And that's also outlined in Appendix H of the Notice of Intent. There's an aquatic species passage memo. We held communications with the Division of Fish and Wildlife on this project, and they determined that, as TJ said, at the end of the project, there will be improved connectivity. So in projects like this, they don't usually place time of year restrictions, and that they just request that we do this drawdown at a slower rate to allow those fish to migrate. That might be in the pond upstream, because that's the only area they can go currently now. So I would direct you to Appendix H for additional information from our discussions with Division of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you. Any other questions? So will you be asking for a continuance there?
There's no number, there's the EP number.
No DEP number, and we have a few questions that need to be answered. Yes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the meeting schedule, and Haley, what is your time frame on responding to the requests?
I think we have the new teacher are gonna have to sit down, and I have this list and come up with how quickly we can respond to them. If we could continue to the next meeting, and we may need to request another continuance to maybe the following if we can't get the information together in time. I could work to communicate appropriately with Leah or whoever from the commission may make sense. I'm not sure when the next meetings are. I didn't see a 2025 meeting agenda posted yet, so maybe I missed that. But me and TJ need to sit down with these comments and see when we can squeeze in these updates.
We have not posted our 2025 meeting schedule yet. We just approved it last month. Our next meeting will be on January 21. And then the following meeting will be on February 18.
Okay.
The first couple of the year, we do observe the third Tuesday of the month. So you should be good. And those numbers got lost.
Okay, great. I don't want to speak for TJ on timeframes.
We can go with January 21st.
Okay, we'll continue this meeting till January 21st, 2025. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your review of this project, and we look forward to talking to you in January 21st.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Have a good night.
We have a new public hearing. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 131, Sections 40, and the Town of Shrewsbury Wetlands Bylaw and Regulations, that the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game, 1 Rabbit Hill Road, Westboro, Mass., has filed a notice of intent for the resurfacing of an asphalt parking area at 30 Hartford Turnpike.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me here. My name is George Willis. I work for the Department of Fish and Game, Office of Fishing and Boating Access. My agency is responsible for hundreds of sites across the Commonwealth. I'm here tonight to discuss the Flint Pond boat launch area on Route 20. What we're proposing is a reclaiming of the existing asphalt surface and a paving in kind. That's the bulk of the work. There is one little area that, because we're there working, we might as well fix a little hole at the end of the boat ramp itself. Yeah, there's a little scour, a prop wash hole, as it's called, due to boaters power loading their boats onto their trailers, which is common at most of our ramps. But this one's pretty severe, so I'd like to at least repair it while we're there. It would look silly to pave the whole place and have a disaster at the end of the boat ramp. So that's the only in-water work we're proposing. I have it shown as filling with riprap. Ideally, since the material that's been scoured away is kind of there in a horseshoe around that, we would just pull it back in. If we needed more material, it would be a large crushed riprap, 3 to 6 inches, as I said on there. Other than that, yeah, it's just asphalt pavement. We have shown a filter strip along the perimeter. That's a rough proposal right now. I still owe you all stormwater documents that would discuss that further. But as it is, no subsurface drainage systems existing or proposed. We're looking to just have sheet flow runoff and not to concentrate the water as much as possible. Now that's boat ramps in their nature. Water is going to near the boat ramp go into the water body. It's unavoidable. So that's the only place we would have a direct source into the water body. But other than that, just guardrail replacement. The site definitely needs it. The asphalt is in pretty bad shape, so.
I know this is a crazy question, but did you give any thought, has any thought been given to making it a little smaller?
I don't see that happening. We don't want to make it any bigger, but we also don't want to make it any smaller. This is a pretty popular parking area. In general, there's also fishing tournaments that occur here. It's, as it is, it's can be full, you know, on a good weekend. So to make it smaller would be detrimental, I believe.
So you won't be creating any more spaces?
Our striping may, I think we plan to stripe it as it is existing. We might be able to squeeze in a couple more spots. That would be line striping though, not expanding of the asphalt itself.
Bob?
You had a couple of questions. Where you said that the prop washers washed all that stuff out. How far you can bring it out? Because it's not a little bit. That stuff is washed out probably about 50 or 60 feet off the shore, out into the water. And it's, I mean, I'm diving down and pull up a ton of cars out. That hole you're saying at the end of the ramp is not a little hole. It's a really big, and it goes right out.
It's massive.
But it comes out, it kind of goes to the big slope, and it gets really shallow off that. Are you planning to open that up so you actually move it in? Two things are gonna happen. You can do that, you get more water flow. Secondly, you can actually put less rock in there to have to fill a hole in.
Our proposed, what we envision doing is reaching what we could with an excavator at the water line on the ramp. So that would be the extent of it. Yeah, that deposited sediment is pretty extensive from what I can gather. It's drawn down pretty far right now, so it is visible. That wasn't really the intent of this project anyway. I mean, if we were going to, this is more just to get rid of the hazard that exists. To properly, permanently fix that would require a large repair of the ramp itself. You want a concrete prop wash pad is what we would do on a new ramp. The ramp would be extended with concrete. In this case, that's far beyond the scope of this. This was, supposed to just be a pavement resurfacing, but while visiting the site, I saw that prop wash hole, and something needs to be done, at least temporarily, because it can't be left that way. Yeah, ideally, we would recover as much as we could from the water body, but like you said, it's pretty far out there. So, yeah, that's all I can offer on that.
The next question is going to be any concrete work. So if you're doing no concrete work, everything's going to be the asphalt forward. When that's running, you can actually have that ramp completely blocked off, so all the run, that stone stuff's not gonna wash in a rainstorm. When you grind that, you'll have something completely blocking the ramp.
Correct.
There's nothing can run down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll have the straw wattle across the top during whenever it's disturbed. When it's milled and graded, it's going to be 2.5 inches below the concrete of the ramp. So it wouldn't be a direct runoff down the ramp. It would have to pool up. But yeah, there will have to be some sort of, if you'd want more heavy duty erosion control at the top of the ramp, that's something we could do.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that because across the ramp and where it's gonna go on either side of the guardrail there, it's gonna find its capacity, it's gonna run down the bank and beside the ramp and right into the water also. So I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, right now I only have 9-inch straw wattle proposed. If you would like something more substantial in those areas, that's certainly an option.
Maybe some deep water flumes in that right at the end of the ramp too to stop anything that might run down there, or that's something you could do?
Definitely, we have on hand silk curtain, floating silk curtain that during, if we're gonna be doing this work, I can't say exactly when, probably off-season, ideally when the water's at its level right now. So the boom would probably just be resting on the setting bottom, but nevertheless, we have that at hand to put out there during work, especially if we're reaching with an excavator into the water and disturbing it. In that case, we would definitely have the silt boom installed.
Okay, thank you.
Also,
Yes.
Diane?
I guess I'm just still thinking about the question that he has asked originally about, I'm not sure what it is that has been pulled out into the pond. Is it rock? Is it riprap?
It should be whatever they place there. It would be, I don't know how it's been repaired in the past, if it ever has been. What I assume is there, it's gravel. The silt itself is probably dispersed.
Yeah.
So it's mostly granular material, I would imagine. Anything that a propeller would stir up and move.
Right, so maybe what's put in its place should be bigger than what can be stirred up by a propeller.
Correct. Yeah, that riprap. You'd be surprised what a propeller can move. Basically, you have to put like armor stone there, and at that point, that's why we would make a concrete prop wash pad. That would be the proper, permanent solution. 3 to 6 inch riprap, I believe, would certainly be more durable than just gravel that's there. It's just a problem we have at every ramp. It's unfortunate. We try to educate the public not to push their boats onto their trailers with the engine. That's the problem. And if people would stop doing that, we wouldn't have these issues.
So it's a kind of a matter of staffing, someone being there to say, don't do it that way, do it the other way?
Yeah, but, yeah.
We have signs.
There's signs.
Yeah, there are extensive signs that tell you how to do it, and it's,
Yeah. It's
education often extends beyond someone standing there and watching you do things also.
It's a tough one. I mean, this site does have attendance maybe half the week during the season, I believe.
Yes, the town does staff attendant. Their priority probably isn't making sure that your beautiful riprap isn't being scoured away, but
And they would be basically,
there.
please stop doing that, and you've already destroyed it at this point. So it's hard. It's a battle. Yeah. We have every ramp with this problem will have a sign that says you're destroying your boat ramp. Please stop power loading. They do it anyways.
A lot of people do that there also because there's that big gutter, they don't want to drop their trail off the end of the drive. The thing, there is a big drop. If you put your trail off, you need a tow truck to get it out.
Yeah.
So that's why people can't get their trail as deep as they really want to go in there, so they actually power load for that
It's
reason.
basically
to turn.
snowball effect. Yeah. It's causing its own. It's exponentially getting worse. Definitely dangerous. It's 18 inches at some spots it looked from what I can see.
So when you repair the boat launch, will any of that have that problem been addressed? Or is it just too late once you get into the water, it doesn't matter?
Well, I think if we repair it with a 6-inch riprap, it will certainly, it will help. I mean, unless someone with a 200 horsepower engine is gunning it there, then that's different. But a regular fishing boat, I think 6-inch riprap, pushed down with an excavator bucket should stand a better chance than what was there. And you can see there's a lot of stones that are kind of just have remained as all the finer material has washed away. So I think I would like to still pull back as much as we can because it did make that large deposit of horseshoe there. And then we'd probably need more material, and that would be a riprap. So encapsulate it with riprap, ideally.
No, my question was the one that you asked. The size of the parking lot, it seemed enormous, but you're saying that there are days when it really is needed, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular spot, especially for fishing tournaments.
All right, so, I guess you'll have to come back next month.
Yeah, that's certainly, yeah.
So you want to continue this?
Yes, please.
February 21st, 2025?
Yep. Is there anything else you'd like me to, have ready?
I mean, if you're gonna come back, you can show a boom. If you're gonna put a boom in.
Yep.
By that riprap, and you can show the siltation barrier going across the ramp.
Yep.
And then, is that gonna be open during construction?
This will be closed, the gates will be closed.
Okay, so during construction, be closed, so nobody's likely to disturb the siltation barrier.
No, no,
It's closed for a week or so, whatever it is.
we do these pretty quick.
Okay.
We're pretty efficient with this. Now, the guardrail might not be installed immediately, but.
All right. All right, that's it. I guess, there was no questions from the audience, right? Okay.
Thank you.
We have a continued public hearing regarding the notice of resource area delineation filed by Dave Calhoun, Saxon Partners LLC, 25 Recreation Drive, Park Drive, Suite 204, Hingham, Mass, for the delineation of the perennial river and inland bank into the stream at 28, 34, and 45 Cherry Street, and 45, 47, 63 Memorial Drive. Anybody here?
Hi everyone, I'm online. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Great. For the record, this is Andrew Tebow with Gutter Consulting. I apologize. I was unable to make the last meeting, and I had a colleague covering, and I know that there was a question that came up as we were looking to close things up, and I wasn't able to answer it. But I'm here tonight to answer the last remaining issues to the ANRAD. If I have permission to share my screen, I will pull that up.
You should be able to share your screen. Perfect.
Can you guys see this? Great, thank you. So as we discussed at the last meeting, I know the commission is well aware that we had filed this ANRAD late last year during the winter, and we had paused the review during the winter, and then myself and Art Allen of Ecotech were conducting the peer review of this spring. We visited the site in May together, and we made final revisions to the delineation. We left the site in agreement with all the river flags, all the DBW flags, and then it just took us some time to get the survey done. We finally got that done in September, and then Art Allen, the peer reviewer, issued his letter in October that everything was revised and all good to go. And then at the last meeting, I know there was some discussion about a water body that's located off-site where my cursor is here. But I just wanted to, based on that site, provide clarification that the ANRAD for these parcels is only requesting the review and the approval of what's located within the limits of our site. We don't have permission to go and flag and evaluate water bodies off-site. So the original ANRAD was not intended to trade that there's not a water body in this area. There certainly is, and in fact, when Art and I were on the site, we parked right about, you see my cursor here, and we walked down, and this was the first area we looked at with fresh eyes. We made some revisions to the delineation here to make sure that we captured the outer extent, and then we confirmed that the annual high water flags at the river made it all the way off-site so that everything on the property was included in this ANRAD. At this point, it was just an ANRAD filing to review those resource areas internal of the parcels that we see here. Should a notice of intent or proposal for construction ever come on these parcels, it would be the applicant's responsibility to look at the surrounding areas. There would need to be a delineation if there's any further river in these areas, if there was off-site wetlands that may cast a buffer onto the project. The ANRAD was just intended to review and confirm what was on our site, and that's all we've been able to do thus far. So I got a question come up at the last meeting, but I'm certainly here if you guys have any others.
No questions. There's a lot of flags. I'll give them that.
Diane?
No questions at this time.
Martha?
I have no
Chris?
questions.
Andy?
I'm all set.
Alea?
No questions.
Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Chris Cutler, 11 Hamilton Circle. Andy, can you tell us where your intermittent stream is?
Yeah, let me pull my screen back up for you, and I can speak to everything that I have available here. So when I color it up here, the perennial stream you see here in a blue color, and then the wetlands themselves are the white shading. Most narrow reaches of the wetland system that we see here, what's delineated is the outer portions of the resource area, but in many of these areas there's intermittent flow internal. They're not delineated as part of an ANRAD because we're just confirming the exterior resource areas to capture the buffer zones on the property. It helps somebody take a look at a property just to see where the jurisdictional resource areas are, where the buffer zones are, but it's not necessarily all inclusive of the surrounding resource areas. So I know there was some discussion that this has been ponded up significantly, and there may be, as beavers recede, there could be something going on in here. So all that can come at a later date during permitting, but that's what we have, at least on our parcels, as of the time of this filing.
You list on your application a perennial river and an intermittent stream. Can you point out the intermittent stream on the diagram? Your cursor's not moving, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that that's not coming through on your end. I'll do my best to use descriptors then. So the intermittent stream is just to provide note that areas where the BBW narrows, it's at the southern portion of the property boundary here, where the perennial river ends. There is some intermittent flow within the wetland system. It's all internal, and the flags were reviewed as part of the delineation.
Okay.
But in that southwest corner of the site, there is some intermittent flow of water down gradient.
Okay, that's great. And so your perennial river is the blue line running from north to south?
Yes, it is. Yep. So it comes out of a culvert at the northern portion of the site, and then we captured all the reaches of it on the property on both sides, either until it reaches culverts to bring it under the existing roads, or until it goes off-site, as I just discussed, to the east.
Okay, so the blue that goes to the east onto the other piece of property, yes, right there, that is also a perennial river. So you've got two perennial rivers on your property, not one. That's all.
Yep, yes, exactly. So there is a portion of it that's on our property, and that was indeed delineated. The blue that you see here until it goes off-site was flagged in the field. It was surveyed, so we're including in the application to make sure we show the full reaches of the river on our property.
Okay, so it's not just one perennial river, that's my point. There are two perennial.
Yes, yeah, exactly. There are two channels, and a portion of it is seen here, exactly.
No, they're two separate rivers. There aren't two channels. They're two separate rivers.
Yes, and they connect to each other.
Okay, and the wetlands boundaries, the 15, the 30, the 100-foot, the 200-foot of that second perennial river, which runs to the east, actually impacts the Cherry Street most southern plot.
It certainly can, yes. So for this ANRAD application, we don't have permission to go on the neighboring property and make an assessment of the wetlands that are there. When we file an ANRAD, we flag everything that's within the limits of our property, and we request the review and approval to paint a picture of what's currently on our site.
Okay.
And at that point, this is all we're doing. A notice of intent would be the permit that would come later if construction is ever proposed here. And if that does happen, then it would be the property owner's requirement to go and look at that second perennial stream, the potential for a pond, and they would also have to evaluate any of the other surrounding parcels that could cast the buffer zone onto theirs. So there could be more work down the road should a proposal come for work on this property.
Very good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions in the audience? Any other questions from the board? Okay. All right, we'll close this hearing. All right, Andy, you good?
I'm all set. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We have a continued public hearing regarding notice of intent filed by Atish Chaya, 12 Bitter Street Circle, Shrewsbury, for the construction of one-story addition, single-family home within the 100-foot buffer and infinite stream at 12 Bitter Street.
Hello, my name is Doug Hill, I'm a wetlands manager for homeowner. Pretty simple addition project. I think the main thing last meeting was waiting for a DEP number and just kind of tweaking the erosion control barrier line. The DEP comments also mentioned, potential of it's not a wetland, sort of like a high and dry bank. But adding some screening vegetation, so we kind of preempted the next iteration and just kind of included a gray fluffy line, or green gray kind of fluffy line towards the channel area there, just showing the approximation of proposed vegetation should you wish to implement that. I've had some conversations with Leah and the homeowner proposing something like that, just going over the various species.
Okay, yeah, so what do you propose with the plant?
We were going, some yellow birch. I mean, I was honestly going to leave it up to the homeowner and, allow him to make the choice for his own aesthetics. We are using the Shrewsbury approved planting list. Everything would be on that and appropriate to the area.
Okay. Bob?
We still plan on removing that shed, correct? It was in.
Yep, oh yeah, no, that's been removed and is updated on this most recent plan to show that no longer there.
So no questions.
Diane?
No, I'm good.
Martha?
The screening line that you've proposed, at one point flagged GCA 10, it comes very close to.
Yeah, no, that's just,
the edge.
that's totally approximate. The actual area, it's like, it goes to earth and like dry almost immediately. So there's actually zero wetland even on the top of the bank. I mean, that can absolutely be included in, any order conditions to stipulate a certain distance away from that.
Okay.
That's just an approximate.
Yeah, that would be my
Yeah.
preference, to pull it away
Certainly.
at that point. Okay, I'm all set.
Bruce?
No, thanks for removing the shed.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Andy?
I'm all set.
Leah?
What, how, how big typically does a yellow birch get?
How big do they
How big
get?
is the yellow birch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can get massive.
It's a full.
Okay, I just wasn't sure I wasn't sure what kind of screening effect either the applicant or DEP, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, really just a question of if you want like a wall or like sort of like a spaced trees to say, if you want that tree line, is this channel. It is a drainage easement, so I mean,
Yeah.
frankly, it would need to serve a function of drainage and potentially need to be cleared, so I'm just trying to think sort of utilitarian as well, like however many years, I don't know, it is a listed easement, that's in the original NOI, so I don't know if the town, it's on town property. I don't know if the town has a plan, so I don't want to put like massive trees in the way that prevent proper maintenance in 20 years, you know what I mean? So want to do right, for all.
That's a question maybe for Andy and Alea, is the maintenance going forward.
So it is one of the things we're looking at as part of the stormwater utility. I mean, right now we're focusing on the 29 detention basins that we own around the town and getting those reestablished. But after we've done that, we are going to start looking at some of these drainage swales, because we do get a lot of calls from homeowners about people throwing debris in it, though, but they need some maintenance. So at some point, yes, we will probably come in there and do some work, but.
So maybe not yellow birch.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
not-
I mean, typically it won't be, there'll be some minor grading and brush removal, so nothing too
Okay.
invasive, but.
If they're being planted at a distance that is small, whatever the heck.
Yeah, we need to get a little machine in there, right? We need to
Yeah,
get a
but
machine in there.
yeah, we're not, for that channel, we're probably not trying to put a big rig in there. or
No, we
anything,
usually
so
just see the, just
You could get several yellow birch in there with no problem.
leave enough room for, an excavator to get in there, do some work.
So I think that was all the questions, I just wanted to, that's all.
You're all set?
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, guess we'll close this hearing. The only one we closed here. Huh? We didn't close one.
We closed Turner Street.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's,
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
There you go. No, we're all set. Anything?
Alrighty.
Just, I'll be over here.
Oh, you can go there?
Yep, yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's approval. We have to, and Brad, we have to. She ain't come just need to know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that, right?
Yeah, especially, and then just listen to Two close hearings.
So we're gonna go on to,
Get the regulations first.
we're gonna do the regulations.
Yes, so the discuss and sign the work and regulations for the hearing, so it does be heard before we can close your hearings.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and sign revised wetland regulations.
Okay. So this, as you guys are aware, we've had our regulations for a little over a year now. We've kind of tweaked them and seen how they are working out for us. So this is an additional round of regulation changes to kind of reflect some things that we've observed over the past year. A lot of it was just kind of shifting or adding definitions that we've seen arise a little more frequently and removing some definitions that are outdated and just not necessary in the town. So throughout the regulations, these are the sections that were altered in some way, shape, or form. We'll move to the definitions first. So the first one, the first set of definitions that we're looking at are definitions that are proposed to be removed from our regulations altogether. These regulations, as they are stated within these definitions, as they are currently stated in our regulations, just say as DEP says, or as CMR 10 and their regulations say. And agriculture's is like a 6-page definition in the Wetlands Protection Act. They don't have any other section. They put it all in the definition. And we don't have a lot of agricultural projects in the town of Shrewsbury. So I find that we don't necessarily need the definition restated as it is stated in the Wetlands Protection Act. We similarly do not see a whole lot of aquaculture here. When we start growing freshwater mussels or something fun, we can consider adding that back in, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And then the third is vista pruning. It is just not a common thing. We usually see the whole tree gone, or we don't see the trees removed specifically to create a vista. So all of these definitions are already included in the Wetlands Protection Act. So if we have nowhere to turn to on a local level, we can look to the state to look at that. The next set of definitions are definitions that were changed. These are the definitions that we had stated are reflected in 310 CMR 10, and we use the same definition they did. These were just definitions. If they stated and were altered this way, they're just a little more prevalent and are applicable to the town of Shrewsbury more frequently. So I didn't want to call them out in the regulations, but they do still just reflect what the state has put out as a definition. So both of these ones will now say, instead of the definition that's listed in the Wetlands Protection Act as defined in 310 CMR 1004 and as amended, and that will stay more current if the regulations on the state level are changed at all. This is where we get into more defined changes to the regulations. So currently we have buffer zone, which includes rivers and streams, which would be perennial areas. Those don't have buffer zones. so those were removed from the definition. The starred things, the perennial resource areas do not have buffer zones, is not included in the definition currently or in the proposed. It's just a call out for you all to understand better. Project Locust was just extended to kind of reflect the state and local regulations. A vernal pool is not defined in the Wetlands Protection Act, so we changed it to match the definition that is defined in the Wetlands Protection Act, and then it is just written out and slightly changed from what is listed in the Wetlands Protection Act, as we have slightly fewer regulations, or we can't have fewer regulations, but we have less focus on them, I suppose. And then resource areas, an additional definition of area subject to protection was added to the definition. The definition remained the same beyond that. And just another one was structure. We had a lot of questions about what structure was this year, so we kind of just clarified that a little bit to include that it excludes signs and fences, stone walls, hedges, or other similar enclosures, and then that any sign, fence, stone wall, hedge, or enclosure that is constructed it is subject to the determination of the commission that it does allow wildlife passage. The applicants do not get to make that decision themselves. And then these three definitions were added. This can be a confusing factor for applicants when they are trying to determine when their appeal period starts. So the date of issuance is when the date is ordered, or the date is when it is mailed to DEP. So the post date of the applicant or of the permit is the date of issuance. Not when you guys sign it, not when I need to stamp it, or I need to write the day that I'm sending it, but it is when it gets posted, so whatever that is. Another one that is added is extended drought. We are currently in the level 3 extended drought, so this definition matches that of DEP's, but I just wanted to clarify to local applicants that we use the data that is collected by the Massachusetts Drought Management Task Force. There is a slightly different either task force or group that puts together a nationwide one. Sometimes they are not as local, they are not as on the ground as our Massachusetts Drought Force task is, so they can be a little slower on the uptake in declaring a drought status. So I just wanted to clarify to any applicants that we use the Massachusetts one. They have a cool website, it's great. And then we also called out intermittent stream status, as we wanted to make it clear that intermittent stream status is not good for more than 3 years, similar to a lot of other resource area delineations. Yes, Dan?
So I just want to make sure I understand that. So a stream is determined to be intermittent.
Yes.
Okay. 3 years pass.
Yes.
Does it automatically lose that status, or is it automatically
yes.
re-evaluated?
If you wanted to keep declaring, if you wanted to, so I guess that would be an interesting thing to come up against, because it would be if you built a house next to a stream and it was declared an intermittent stream, and then that 3 years passed and it was suddenly poofed into a perennial stream. You are now building, your construction is now built within a perennial stream. At that point in time, you probably would need to just re-declare that it is an intermittent stream. If it is truly an intermittent stream, it should not be difficult to continue to prove that it is an intermittent stream. So yeah.
How will this be, who's going to be looking at all the streams in Shrewsbury to keep an eye on what's happening
So
with
we
their
don't necessarily
status?
just be monitoring the streams over and over again, but anytime that anyone comes before us with a declaration of an intermittent stream, we would want to be looking to see when that data was collected. So if that data was collected several years ago, that may not be applicable. Streams are apt to change. They are, especially with the amount of development that we regularly see in Shrewsbury, a lot of our water bodies are kind of growing and expanding in unexpected ways with downstream development or downstream from developments. So kind of being able to stay on top of that stream and account for it continuing to be intermittent would be a big thing. We just don't want to see outdated
So this
data.
is kind of a follow-up from that project in Walnut, where they said it was determined intermittent 10 years ago.
Right.
We don't have to prove it again, so that's obvious. Well, it was a long time ago, right? So the idea is like, yeah, there needs to be a statute of limitations on when you can say it's not intermittent.
So to that point, let's say a stream is determined to be intermittent in 2024.
Yep.
And then someone else, so it's good for 3 years.
Yep.
And let's say in 2025, someone else does work in the area and determines the stream to be intermittent. Is that now extended out 3 years
That
past
would-
2025?
yeah, that would probably-
So it
yeah,
it
you
keeps
would-
adding
you would
on to
keep
the 3 years?
updating.
Okay.
Well, that would be the kind of the thing too. So when it expires so we'll say it was approved in 2024,
Yeah.
and it's good till 2027. If you have updated data, why would you just not use that?
I just want to make sure that somehow that's reflected in the language.
Yes, it might, this was.
Maybe it's vague
Our
enough that.
first attempt at
Yeah,
that, so
yeah.
it may need to be updated, and we may see as we use this, and as people kind of push against it to see where the weak points are, that we will update the regulation to reflect, strengthen those weak points in the
Okay.
future. But yes, if you do see any immediate red flags, please let me know.
Is there a parallel one for perennial streams?
We did add, I think we were looking to add similar, we were looking to kind of expand, so we have a section 4 riverfront area, within the regulations under our jurisdiction, basically, and we probably will look to add more to the intermittent stream, how you establish that a stream is intermittent, and how that status is good. So that may be in a later set of regulation changes, that there are more for intermittent and riverfront areas. So leading definitions, we get into our waivers. Currently, we have, we do have some waivers in place. As we've established our waivers, they've been a little loosey, kind of on the fly and loosey-goosey with our use of them, and it can be difficult to write the conditions to reflect the waivers. So you'll see one of the forms that I handed to you was our brand new waiver form, as I mentioned in the next screen as well. And so folks are required, if they're seeking a waiver, to fill out a form saying what waiver they're seeking, what part of the regulations it's from that they're seeking a waiver from, and then any, why that is the only option that would allow the project to move forward as proposed. What's up, Diane?
Is that a typo where it says 10?
It sure is, yep. Yeah, somebody needs to,
It's
it's probably, in waiving strict compliance.
just.
That T probably just got left because the written decision will become part of the issued wetland permit was the original final sentence of that, and I just added additional words to kind of reflect.
That's first word's a typo.
Yes, absolutely. So I will switch that up before it gets finalized. And kind of going, adding additional to waivers, consideration might be to add a mitigation or an impact fee to associate with the waivers. It would discourage the immediate use of, oh, this isn't working, let me just cut down all these trees. Or, the financial obligation may allow applicants to reimagine their proposals in a more conscientious way to our resource areas. These are just a couple of towns, and they are obviously very all over the place. Unfortunately, I was not able to find any additional waiver fee structures.
If fair payment work must be whichever is greater, I assume, right?
Yes, yeah. So it's at a minimum, you must pay $200 if you are doing, an acre of disturbance. And they specifically use it probably in shellfish mitigation areas, so they're closer than here, or more coastal than here. But I have seen similar instances applied in other towns where when folks are proposing to do wetlands replication at all, they need to pay either a fee for it based on the square footage that they're proposing to do, And then in other towns, they will also alternatively hold a bond during the course of the replication. And the bond kind of reflects the amount of work it would take if the project went belly up right in the middle, no replication got done, you'd already destroyed the resource area, what it would take for someone else, like the town probably, to come in and do the project, return the project to the natural state. Those are typically developed, they're typically only developed with larger projects, but they are usually established by the wetland scientist, and how much it will cost to do the replication, and then usually verified by a third-party review.
So does that money just goes to the town? Is it earmarked toward anything specific, or if we were to collect fees for that?
That was kind of a question that would need to go to town council as to how.
You've got to check out what we can use it for, right?
Yes.
Purely for mitigation, we're kind of just going to a general.
And then those would be two different processes. It would either be the bond process would probably be specifically for when wetland replications are proposed. This might be for even work within the buffer area if you're proposing to remove this many trees within the buffer area, or within that 15-foot buffer that we propose to protect and not allow any work in. So how it would kind of be to the commission's discretion how we would want to structure that, so that you might want, bigger consequences for actions that are impacting the resource areas more.
I think when somebody comes in, they're paying a lot of money in fees with building permits and sewer use permits and water use permits and storm water management permits. So and they have to get a conservation permit and do all that as well. So I think a flat fee similar to what we have listed in our schedule of fees of like $50 would probably be a fair thing for people. Because there are a tremendous amount of fees that are being charged.
Yeah, so
I would be
it definitely, and it might be how, it might be just the structure to deter. Obviously the point is not to just take all of applicants' money. That's not, we're not trying to do that. We are trying to protect the resource areas. So the point of the mitigation fee would be to discourage the excess, I guess, disturbance of buffer zones and resource areas. So structuring it in a way that would make that reticence occur.
We have a regulation saying 1530.
Yeah.
And you don't have to allow any waivers, so, I mean,
That's
you
true.
just don't have to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't really granted that many, unless it was,
Yeah,
we were surrounded by a body of water, or there was an existing house there, and, things of that nature, but, I mean, any big projects that have come in, or any new homes that have been built on vacant land, I don't think we've really granted any waivers.
yeah, no, I don't believe so.
And I think the people that are going to be coming in for waivers are people that have existing homes, or they want to put an addition on it, do some work in their yard.
Mhm.
They're gonna need a waiver because there's a wetland here, or there's a brook here, or there's a lake here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think those are the type you're gonna say.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
Mhm. Yeah, so the implementation of fees might be a later process anyhow, because kind of coming to a final charge amount might be what holds us back, but implementing the request form was more pressing, just in that it's very much to account for how many waivers that someone is asking for, and someone might not realize that they needed to request a waiver because they are proposing work that does fall outside of our regulations. So just kind of standardizing that.
Gotcha.
So moving from waivers into performance standards. This is for activities within the resource area. Yes. So the previous definition had kind of, was trying to incorporate how the protection of bordering and isolated vegetated wetlands, and it was just kind of getting messy. So it has just been clarified that if you want to do work, you need to look within the rest of the regulations to kind of, for them, to meet the requirements of the regulations.
That's good because it references our local market regulations.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of this was probably, was pulled from the Wetlands Protection Act, and this clarifies it to reflect our local regulations. This was for cold weather delineations, as we are seeing shifting, seasonal cycles. April 15 to November 1, a lot of the waivers that we have granted this last year were for work outside of the cold weather time. And when those folks were doing delineations, they were not finding close to freezing standards. They were working in perfectly nice days. It was 50 or 60 degrees in March, and they were doing their thing. So this would be to establish delineation's not being done when it's actually frozen. So you're not going to be able to, when the ground is actually frozen, you're not able to get a soil auger, which is how the soil tests are conducted, or if there is a bubble of snow actually on the ground, you really can't tell the vegetation or the soil, or any of the landscape features that would help you in determining where a wetland is. So this just kind of hones in a little more on a more accurate time.
I don't know, I mean, if you take away how are you gonna monitor the days, 5 days? What are you gonna base that on? Based on weather reports, or how do you determine
In
that?
standard, you'd refer to something.
What are you getting, if it's gonna be below 32?
Yeah.
For 5 days or more, what's the standard? Where do you get that?
Yeah.
A date was set, 15th April.
Yeah. But so these dates were set based on other communities' definitions of a cold weather delineation.
Stole that from someone else, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we can't.
Yeah, but it's a cut, set and dry.
Yeah.
It's X, Y, this one's kind of, it can
Well,
be.
so an alternate proposal that had been made by Andy was just to remove this. Because we issued this report too, it might come to the commission to look at a delineation, look at pictures or the date of the delineation and say, hey, it was February 2nd. There wasn't 3 feet of snow on the ground when the ground wasn't frozen at that time, when you were trying to take your auger of soil.
But there was the reason that came up is April fit into the growing season. That way you could physically see the vegetation that was there. I know that's what we had discussed as a board back then. We
Yeah.
wanted to physically see the vegetation.
Yeah. So it might get more into how we are allowing delineations to be done and less into when delineations are being done. If we were to have stricter standards on how a delineation is being done, if they were required to take, you must do a soil test to prove that the soil reflects frequent inundation of water, or at least flooding to the surface, you must have this many signs of hydrology or plant as well, and that would be a better standard for how a delineation is done and less reflective of somebody just went.
No, we haven't issued any waivers on delineations, have we?
Yes.
We did?
Yeah, we've issued several.
When did we did that as a board?
It was earlier in the year. There were several taken in March.
They came here and asked for that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably in the spring.
But to Ken's point, you could have 2 warm weeks in the end of February, and that there wouldn't be anything growing. So
Well, so yeah, that would be a better thing. If we are looking to have a delineation standard that requires that you have a live like a live growing vegetation, that would, on April 15th, you're not gonna have a fully fledged button bush sprouting out telling you, yeah, I'm a button bush. It's just gonna be twigs.
I think we need to work on this one more.
Yeah,
This one I'm not too keen on.
yeah. So,
One thought is that you could look at tying it to the current delineation of gardening zones, which are updated, if you want to. I don't know exactly how that would work.
The
but-
USDA map,
but-
is what you're saying?
I don't know if it's USDA or who does it, but Massachusetts has moved down a zone or up a zone recently. I think they're updated every 10 years.
Well, say leave it the way it is, huh?
Yes?
It is the federal government that did the whole nation, adjusted the zones due to climate changes within the past year.
yeah, so those dates, it might just be more accurate to have different dates that more accurately reflect.
Or you
Like
date.
how revised.
Yes, I mean, yeah, well, we go back and forth on it. so.
Yeah.
And it's more for
So
one
it also, yeah, it could just be
We're locking in
removed.
wetlands, 'cause I mean, I don't know why, it's just at the date of five.
And this last one was that.
That's one that got put on hold, right, so they filed in November, we didn't waive it.
And I thought that worked out.
So yeah, specifically this ANRAD, the ANRAD that was enforced tonight, the original data was collected in March of 2023. And because they had gone through the peer review, they did not require a waiver because they fortified that their data was correct or was accurate through the process of the peer review. But that was where a waiver might be necessary because they did not have updated data to reflect growth conditions.
We asked them to wait because we wanted.
Exactly.
That was test case, that's what I came for.
Yeah, I think UPS was out on the data.
Like, yeah, I think UPS is going to run it away, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they had also, their delineations in the weeks before, their peer review delineation was just the weeks before, the cold weather period had ended, so yeah. We might not have, similarly, back to our waivers, we might not have required that a waiver be issued, even if it was required. So our regulations state if you did a delineation within the April 5th or November 2 to April 14 period, you need to tell us and a waiver will be issued. That might not have been reflected in the order of conditions that were issued, even if they were doing work or doing delineations within the cold weather period of time. So the waiver might not have been issued because it was overlooked, but it was done.
So they may want to, if you kept the dates, they have to ask for a waiver.
Yes, yeah. And it has been something that I typically will look at, just to,
They should come before the board and ask permission and ask for a waiver to do it.
Yes,
outside of the states,
yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Cite reasons why.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
so that would be,
Or we don't allow them to do it. Typically, we don't allow them. They're not
yeah, or you need
supposed
to
do
collect updated data that confirms what you
Correct.
previously found. Yeah. This just kind of doubles down on the waiver requests that, if you, this was sort of vague language that said, if the commission says so, you could do what you want. This just says to submit a waiver request if you would like to do what you want, and have the commission approve that. This was just to clarify, folks have been confused, and actually our bylaw, we will have to go back to our bylaw will have to go back to town meeting in the springtime because it currently says that it says something funky about the distance of butters and who should be notified, and then it also requires that the green cards version, is that certified mailings or?
Certified return receipt.
Yes, so we currently require that certified return receipt mailings be sent out. They are $10 per abutter these days. That is a lot of money if you are especially doing a project as lot. Obviously, when you get to a certain size project, money is less of an issue. If you wanted to take on that financial burden, that's on you. But for applicants with a number of neighbors, it gets very expensive. So just requiring, just required proof that a butter got their thing. You don't need the green cards. So there's a smaller, cheaper way to do that these days. But that's in the bylaw, so that will have to, it will be a small thing, but it will have to be changed during the town meeting event. Yeah, what's up, Diane?
Just a really small thing, I think request for determination of applicability, the applicability should be capitalized.
It sure should, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yep. Next. Is that it? I think that's it.
Administration review permit.
Huh. Okay, oh, yes, you're right. I had skipped that because I wasn't sure. At this point in time, yeah, it's a lot of words, and it has not been fleshed out that it would be even included in this round of regulations, but we can begin to talk about it. Yes.
On this one, I think this is a good idea, but I think we should at least consult with the chair, or we should say, listen, so-and-so's come in, they're asking for this, this, and this is why I think we should do it. At least if the chair has notice or knows that it's going to happen, I think it's a good thing.
So this would be, the administrative review permit would be very limited in project scope. It would typically be something that we would see, like a small RDA filing for, and we would definitely want to flesh out kind of the limits of it. I am not power hungry. I do not want any more of any of the power that I have. So this would be very, very limited in what would be proposed. In other municipalities, they will typically see these kinds of filings. So it would be kind of to loam and seed, which is a change in grade and would be required for would normally require an RDA. Plantings, fence repair, removal of dead trees. So the proposal that was before us tonight did have a little more. It also included stockpiling of soil that was unsecured, but typically folks will have to file, pay the fee, wait the whole month, come before us to remove a dead tree. And it does seem a tedious process, especially sometimes people are very concerned about if that dead tree is going to come down on their home, or their small children playing in the yard, or whatever other hazard they have in their lives. So it would, yeah, and it might be, and then also removal of invasive species, and then it might be removal of up to blank number of alive trees. And then you also, the biggest aspect of that would be the administrative side of this, because you wouldn't want someone, coming before, they come before me this year and they say, I just want to remove 3 trees. And then they come before, I forget about them, and they come before me next year and ask to remove 3 more trees. And then the following year, 3 more trees. And then following year, 3 more trees. And soon, in 10 years, they've clear cut their lawn. Not what we want to see happen. So the big thing will be the administrative side of this, of kind of keeping accountable those trustees that are asking for these proposals, so that we're not seeing that. It would be a very dedicated cause if they were to go through the administrative review process every single year to slowly clear cut their property. Certainly not the best way to go about it, but I don't know how folks work.
Would this be allowed by the DEP? I mean, you're working within the resource area.
Well, we would assume it's just buffer work only.
But it's still regulated though, right?
A lot of towns do it, and there's a couple of things we're gonna run by
Yeah, so this would
town
be,
council, but it's not uncommon for,
this would not be implementable anyhow. We would want to absolutely run it by town council to confirm that it would be
Yeah.
legal to do.
but we're assuming it's all buffer work. If it's in the resource area, we would be filing it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
The town of Spencer has a tree policy. It's 6 within 100 or 4 within 25, but it has to be minimally impactful, like stay on their lawn, cut the tree on the edge. That is their tree policy, and Leicester is in process to do something similar.
Well, that probably needs some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's our tree boards, to establish if there's any overlapping or interfering policies that we need. This would also be probably, it would continue to be an agenda item where It would come through, you would say, yep, those were two very dead looking trees. They were good to cut them down. Or there might be, the requirements in place might be, you have a certified arborist say, yep, that's a dead tree. It is a hazard to them in some way, shape, or form. They should remove it immediately. They cannot wait a single day. And then so potentially no work might be done without the commission approving the administrative review permit. So if it came to the commission, your guys, the commission was not of the mind that it was approvable under an administrative review permit, the applicant would file a permit request. So if it was 4 trees or 2 very alive trees or whatever went against the grain of the commission's decision, it might just be, you do not do the work until the meeting, and you get the final approval from the commission. It just kind of quickens the process along, but not the process. I think that was it for the administrative review. This is on Google Drive, if you would like to look at it and review it a little slower. All of the highlighted section, all of the highlighted text is included in the regulations that were given to you and have been uploaded to the proposed regulation revisions. I'm sorry, they just got uploaded today, so you did not get to read them in text until now. This was just, you got the snippet version. Since we are just looking at this month and there are clearly some edits to be made, I don't think you need to vote on it tonight. That's a good idea to.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so it's just
There's a lot of
housekeeping.
work, there's a lot of stuff to take in,
Yeah.
but
It's always housekeeping work, some of it's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of work on that, and it's appreciated, and there's a lot of good things that need to be updated, and, you know, there's a lot of good things we can, yeah, no, it's a work in progress. And it's been, overall, I think that the bylaw has been very successful, and,
Yeah,
you
we've
know,
had,
it's helpful.
we actually, every year when the final report for the Conservation Commission is put together, I will include all of the applications that we received over the course of the year. We've received like the lowest number of applications that we received in the last several years. They have been whammies of applications. They're not playing around in size, but we've reduced number of applications. I think we've received 23 so far this year. Last year we received 30 something, and I think previous year, when Andy was our acting Conservation Commission agent, it was, there was like 40 something applications. So we have been declining in applications. I don't know if it's, people are just terrified of our bylaw and regulations and they're really just whipped into shape, or I don't know, but that's how it's played out this year.
All the buildable lots that are left in our resource area.
Yeah.
Can I make one comment about this form?
Yes.
It needs a title.
It sure does.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Okay.
Yeah. And he pointed out that it also should be signed by the applicant, so that was the most recent proposal to add.
So, we need to make a motion.
Continue, keep it open.
We have the 2 closed hearings.
All right, so this regulation here, you want to keep this open on ongoing discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, that way then we can,
We need to keep this ongoing, and then we can just bring it up.
yeah, we can just touch base
Yeah,
with
we
it
can
every month.
give
and
it to-
We can either give you an update, right, or we're ready to vote, But we know things we do have to go back to town meeting for, again, it's mostly just correcting definitions, but again, one up is on.
I don't think we need to do anything formally. We don't need to do anything formally.
They're gonna keep it, they're gonna keep it on.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to, we're gonna go to new and old business now, right?
Yes.
So somebody is going to make a motion to approve the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the delineation of, now in here it says a perennial river and inland bank, but there was discussion about whether it was 2 perennial rivers. So my preference would be 2, but we can discuss. Of an intermittent stream at 28 and 34 Cherry Street and 45, 47, 63 Memorial Drive.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Are we seconding the two perennial springs?
Any discussion? So would somebody like to add, would be two perennial streams?
Yes.
Or can somebody like to amend that motion?
I would like to amend my motion to say the delineation of two perennial rivers and an inland bank of intermits.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Those two.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we issue a notice of intent for Bittersweet, order of conditions, thank you, it's late. For 12 Bittersweet Circle for the,
The construction of a.
for the construction of a one-story addition to the home in the 100-foot buffer zone to an intermittent stream, with the condition that the screening, suggested vegetation screen be pulled back from flag GCA 10.
Second.
By 10 feet? 10 feet.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That would be it. Everything else has been continued.
Correct.
So one of the things we're looking at for issuing all the conditions is, this is something I learned when I was on the Worcestercon fund, is they had a pre-populated spreadsheet with all the special conditions, and typically the agent would check off these the ones I recommend. Because one of the issues we're finding is, police having a hard time tracking what was actually granted special conditions. So we're going to, working on a spreadsheet, we'll have all the standard ones. We'll make recommendations and we can add to it afterwards, but just to get that on the radar.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, a lot of commissions calls a public hearing and you issue your conditions right afterwards. So I want to think about changing that policy.
So
Because a lot of times the clients are sitting there waiting.
And then immediately, the hearing will be closed.
During the
and then-
hearing.
Yes.
They usually close public hearing and then discuss and issue your conditions of this. This is what we got into about, well, that's should we have a pre-populated issue
So this,
sort of database.
this is rather expansive. It looks very, very scary because it's every condition that I've experienced in the 2 years of issuing orders that we've gone through, and I've gone through historical ones as well to kind of standardize it. But there are, as you can see, standard special conditions that are issued for every, don't put stuff in the research area, don't, make sure you have your erosion control installed, and they're indicating as standard. So they would automatically be checked off on most applications, and then there are standard conditions that might be included for commercial projects versus residential projects. And then there are fun little ones, like we had required an owl box to be installed on a particular property several years ago, and we required, that boulders might be installed, or different things as they come up along the years. Those would be special conditions that you kind of play out on the floor the night of the approval, but the rest of them would be more standardized, so the applicants were more prepared for what they were going to be approved for. And we could kind of haggle a little more the night of over what the intent of the condition is as we are writing it.
So you're saying is that you're gonna come up with a standard list of conditions, such as you say that's your standard list of
Yes.
conditions that are applicable towards the
That
just
go
above.
out on
Yeah, and then we
every
would, we
single
can draw
order
from,
of
and then
conditions.
we
They
would
are-
recommend.
They are standard requirements.
We would not be limited to those.
So you're,
No.
No, so these would be, they are always issued, and then we typically, so those are what are typically issued when we say with special conditions. And then you tack on the specific conditions that are include that property. So it's with all of these regular old conditions, plus owl box, plus
discussion.
So that
Well,
would,
plus blank.
the pluses would be what the board discusses that night.
Yes.
That you write down.
We would probably, we may do some recommendations ahead of time, and then we could add other
Yeah.
ones, and then
Yeah.
that way the applicants can see what they can into, because again, a lot of times we'll send out the order conditions, they're like, well, that's not what we thought special condition was. So I think we can memorialize it better.
Yeah.
It helps us.
And it will also, as we are going, some of our hearings are expanding several months. In the course of those several months, lots of things are changing. Special conditions that were very important in April's meeting might have fallen to the wayside by July's meeting, when our hearings are continuing on for that long. So kind of being able to write them down the night of, like, oh, we just need a special condition about rocks. And then 3 months later, when we're finally getting around to issuing the order of conditions, we can be like, oh, don't forget that special condition about rocks that we had 3 months ago. So then it's memorialized a little better. We're not really losing.
So it'll be this sheet, and then what we typically do, we probably put the projects on each one and a column, just check them off.
Yeah.
So they did in Worcester, I stole the idea, right?
No, that's, I think that's probably gonna help quite a bit, because like, exactly what Leah said, you go, some of these things go on several months, and in the first meeting, we say this, and then when they'll end, you're like, oh, where'd that go? No, I think that's fine.
That's a great idea. For us, give it a play, is it?
There's no certificate of compliance.
Oh, that certificate of compliance was before us last month as well. They still had silt fence in place at our last meeting, and they had proposed to remove it prior to this meeting and prior to the issuance of certificate of compliance. They were not able to remove it. There was also some trash on site, and they have, so this is for the Centec North, is it Centec North Park? The two really big warehouse buildings. Their tenant is having some issues additionally in figuring their stuff out, so I would like to see that sorted out as well. They have a couple stockpile areas that are unsecured on site that need to get wrapped up. And then they've also been storing their snow directly in front of the no snow storage signs that were installed, which is an interesting choice, but made for a very interesting, a great photo. So I will upload that to the drive for your perusal next month. So I would not recommend that the commission close that hearing tonight. And finally, on to our updates.
Updates. 101 North Quincy. A favorite.
So we have had a change in development since our previous hearing, or one more predicament, over the course of the month with the sudden amount of rain that we got. The retaining wall that runs along, is it the south side of the property? North. Yes, the north side of the property, adjacent to Ms. Tech Summers' property, fell over. When we pulled the photos on the drive, the applicant was able to remove some of the materials that had fallen in front of the doorway of Mrs. Tech Summers' home, but still not great. An additional retaining wall on the property fell over and may want to be included in any future filing that we see from them. It might also be to the discretion of the board to issue an additional enforcement order saying, hey, you have more unsecured dirt and an additional failed retaining wall. What is going on?
Would it be a separate enforcement order, or does it have to be?
So yes, it would either, it might be possible to issue an amended enforcement order, which would kind of build off of the previous one, and would just add on to it.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would also forward that to DEP.
Yes.
And ask DEP for any guidance, since this has been going on since early spring, and we can't get this person to do anything to remediate.
I mean, I think we do under the bylaw, we can charge them $300 a day.
We
Per
can?
month. Yeah.
A day?
Per day, and every day is a new violation.
Okay.
We actually have, and we got some citation tickets made, print up.
So we issued them one citation.
Yeah,
Yes.
but theoretically, we do every day is a new violation.
Can we do it every day since we originally, like retroactive to the original
No, we
violation?
have to issue the citation.
I would start then issuing the citation.
Yes.
We issue one, yes, the first one.
So can we not
The-
charge with
So
$300 per day fines?
the timing of citations is a little funny, and I don't know. how, so there's a 15-day period, and then with enforcements in general, there's a 2-year observation period. So like if you do something a long time ago, every time you sell the property, it restarts that violation. But if we have not observed that violation within a certain period of time, it is what it is until the sale of the property, which like restarts the clock for any. And that I think is just actually been extended to 3 years of observation time.
But I think we actually have to go out and check it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, and then if there's some 15-day period, and I'm not sure how it works, getting into enforcement law is very, very, very complicated. And every time anyone tries to explain it, it's a lawyer, and they don't do a very good job. So, but yes, upon a new reason for violation, you immediately start ticketing. You can just continue on ticketing until the cows come home or the retaining wall is rebuilt.
It's a violation form also to the building inspector on this. Actually, something about the building inspector had something wrong with his patty.
So our violations are specifically for,
Yep.
yeah, yes, yeah, observation matters.
Yeah, I mean, Patty's involved, but I don't know.
Yeah, if Patty has an additional, I'm not sure how her violations work. So ours are typically, I probably wouldn't, it would be unusual to see a citation issued without an enforcement order. So ours would pretty typically be tied to, you issue an enforcement order the first day, and then every day after, in the enforcement order, you say, hey, every day you're gonna receive a violation of a fee for the violation that you're causing. Every new day is a new violation, because you want it to stop, like you want the violation to stop. So, in order to make the violation stop, you want the fees to stop, so.
He also complained about the property down there. He needs to address, it's like no ABLs, no swales. At the bottom, it's just plastic flapping in the breeze.
Yeah, so that
and
might
is-
also be with the amended enforcement order that's being reissued. This kind of restarts the clock, and it also would, so it's $300 is typically issued, it's $300 per violation per day. So if you have 15 violations going on, that's 15 times 300 times number of days that it's going on, which adds up very, very quickly, and is why people go to court a lot of the times for these. So yeah, in the instance that we already have an enforcement order on the property, and there are already as many violations as are included in that enforcement order, this is an additional enforcement an additional violation, because it is unsecured stockpiling within the buffer area, and then just a lot. So kind of defining what the violation is, and then amending the enforcement order to reflect however many violations it is. And then reissuing it with this. Yeah. Let me see if I have this.
And do you have anything to add?
Ann Zavick Sumner, 9799 North Quincy, Mass. First of all, thank you for your communications and being so responsive. I do appreciate that. Just two things. One is a teeny detail in the agenda. It mentioned that the email was dated December 6th. It was actually the 11th, because this event happened on the 10th. So
I must have looked at it.
I know, there were so many.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure that we had the time sequence
Okay,
correctly.
so this occurred on the 10th.
That occurred on the 10th, and I emailed you the 11th.
Okay.
Yep.
No, sure.
There's so many.
Okay.
And then just to confirm my understanding, that when they come forward, because this is within the buffer zone, I believe it is. I have never measured it.
Yeah, I think
That will be included.
I'll have to, let me look.
That will be included in whatever plans they come, so that they need to bring that to you as
I think the
part of.
majority of the properties within the buffer zone.
I believe it is, but.
So approximately, yeah, it goes, 100 feet is about up there's the first
Oh.
tier of,
Oh, to the second house?
Yes.
The 97, okay.
Yes.
So, clearly.
yeah, yeah.
So now we need to make sure that both areas are addressed.
Yes.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
yeah, they would include any plans to restore the area in their filing, because it would be working with the buffer zone.
That's all from me, unless you have questions for me.
And then I do have, two updates that did not make it onto the agenda. One is for the Bumblebee project, which is, let me pull up our Google Meet and see if the area is still there.
I'm still here, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So the first is for the Bumblebee project. The Bumblebee project proposes to install native plants that help native species of bumblebees that are declining in populations. I'll let Gary take it from here because he probably has far more words to say about it.
Yeah, thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yep, you're welcome to.
While I figure out how to share the screen, can you give it
There's
an intro on what
there's
you
a little-
have in the sites that you talked about?
There's a little a rectangle with an up arrow in it that will be how you share your screen.
Okay.
And then if not, I can share my screen. I believe you shared the presentation with me, so.
Yeah, it's asking me about system preferences.
Oh, boy.
I think I need to choose Google Chrome or something.
Okay, we can just look at it online. Oh, Gary's gone. Okay. Which address are you here for? You did, oh, okay. You're just sticking it out to the end? Wow.
I just want
How
to
good is
thank
that?
everybody, that's
Oh, yeah, of course. I thought there was another secret update matter, but there's not, yay. They're not here, so. Okay,
So is he gonna call back in?
great question. I'll give you the
There he
gist.
is.
Yep, there he is, yay. Gary, can you hear us? Can you see my
Okay,
screen?
can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Awesome. How about we just, is it okay if you talk and I'll scroll? Awesome. I don't think we can hear you anymore.
He turned up his mic somehow.
Gary, we can't hear you anymore.
His mic was working.
Yep, much better.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Gary Phillips. I'm a Northborough resident, and I've got a new hobby of native plants. The picture that you're seeing here is a garden that I installed on Lyman Street at Watson Park. This is actually the meadow. All the plants are 3 feet and smaller, and this is what I'm proposing to put in Shrewsbury. In the next few slides, I'll explain what this project is about. But 3 years ago, I installed a native plant garden just in the background there, and then the meadow is the foreground that you see. I won an award, an corporate environmental award at work this month, and with that, I was given $5,000 to donate to a nonprofit. I donated it to Sudbury Valley trustees because they have they share my environmental passion. And Sudbury Valley trustees, their jurisdiction is any watershed that goes to the Concord, Sudbury, or Assabet rivers. And part of Shrewsbury is included in that. They're one of the 36 towns. And the SVT's goal is to get one of these special native plant gardens in all 36 towns. We've got them in Berlin, Marlborough, Southborough, Westborough, Northborough. We don't have one in Shrewsbury yet. So before I agreed to give the money to SVT, I had them agree that we would use the money to install a garden in Shrewsbury. And it's a native plant garden, but it's a subset of native plants for the at-risk bees. We have 2 at-risk bees in our area, and we're not talking about rare bees. A bee rare 100 years ago and is rare now, it's always going to be a rare bee. We're talking about the bees that were doing well 100 years ago, headed towards extinction. Dr. Jagir is a biology professor at UMass, and he studied which flowers these at-risk bees visit, and that's what's on his plant list. So these are long-tongue bumblebees, so flowers with tubular flowers are what bees feed these bees. But it's also for butterflies and not at-risk bees. It's for the ecosystem, not just special for these at-risk bees. So I met with Leah a few weeks ago, and she had scoped out 4 or 5 locations. The one with the arrows just north of town center, closest to my house, which is my preference, so I can keep an eye on it. But it's a field, there's a close-up. If you want to go to the next one, this is the site looking south. That's the cemetery in the upper right. I believe it's a field that does not get mowed. At least it was tall grass, plopped over. I think it's not mowed. And this is the area that I'm hoping to install if we can work things out. My next move is to meet with the highway department, the Shrewsbury Highway Department, or DPW, or cemetery, whichever group I need to get endorsement from. I don't think this is wetland area, so this is more of an inform, I think, to your group, just to share the good news about the project. When I do projects like this, a big part of it is community outreach. I do winter sow workshops in these towns and teach the community about native plants, and then I distribute seeds that I've collected in my gardens and milk jugs, which is a mini greenhouse and soil. So I'll do the same on the 30th at your library. I presented there a year ago, presented to the garden club a year before that, and several Girl Scout troops. So this will be about the 6th time I'm presenting the workshop in Shrewsbury. And the seed envelopes that I give out get split to two milk jugs, and the ask is you keep 1 jug for your project and donate 1 back to the community project. So that's how we typically populate these projects that I have my hands in. But those donation jugs will be to supplement the project, but I have $5,000 to spend on plants and install, which will go a long way. And when I put the meadows in, that very first screen you saw was a meadow, everything 3 feet or shorter. I'll go for 50% little blue stem grass, which is a native grass that the host plant has winter interest. It stays up all winter. If you get a heavy snow, it goes flat, it melts, it pops back up. So it has a real pretty, it's up all year for that interest. And on the next slide, this is a rain garden proposal. There's actually, I don't know the right terminology, but the rain, when it goes, it will flow down where I'm showing, and there's I call it a drain pipe culvert, I'm not sure, and then that would eventually go straight to a stream, straight to a river, which we don't want. We would rather have the rainwater go into the ground. So there's a special garden called a rain garden that this would be a really great candidate as part of this project, is to add a berm where I've drawn. The rain will collect there. It will puddle up. After the rain event is gone, what that small pond created does not go straight to the river. It will in a couple days drain down into the ground, which we want. So, so this project I'm proposing, if we choose this site, we have hopefully a rain garden and also a meadow on the perimeters. And the rain garden is planted with native plants that are happy with wet feed. This is not going to be plants that will always be in wet. This will be wet when it rains, and then use it for drought tolerant plants as well. And then the next one, I like the meadow. I like the meadow idea because it's low maintenance. It's not, this garden at this site is not meant to be a public garden. It's for the pollinators. We'll feed the pollinators from March to April. If we wanted to, we could add a path through it, probably a burlap path, which is temporary. It composts in a year. This picture here is the garden that I installed at my work in Framingham, the ones who are funding this project. It was a project where they had this all tore up. They were going to do irrigation, install a lawn. I was able to change the plan. We installed a native plant meadow. And then on the left and right side, you can see a little bit on the top there is a meadow. This middle part, this middle part is a pollination garden. The left and right are meadows, just like what I'm installing. These are all plants from the 2 years list. And I would do the site prep. I like to do it fast so I can plant straight away. I would do that with a rototiller. That if we want to expand that, we could do it with being more patient by solarizing the area that will kill the weed seeds. With the rototiller, there's a lot of weed pressure, so that's the maintenance for 2 years is weeding out those grasses that are coming in. So we favor the plants that we install by plugs in the winter. So, and this is the project where I won that corporate environmental award, got that $5,000 donation money. And I call it low maintenance because the first few years you're just weeding out, meaning me and any volunteers I recruit, weeding out the weed seeds that are coming in, and after it's established, it could be mowed once every 3 years just to keep the invasives down, or don't. At Wilson Park, I've had it there 2 years, and I don't see any reason to mow that property. But I have seen meadows recommended to mow it every 3 years just to keep the trees out, the invasives out. But I'm keeping my eye on it, and I'm hand weeding the ones in Northborough, and I would do the same in Shrewsbury to make sure it's successful. Are there any questions or comments or concerns on the project?
Any questions from the board?
No, sounds a good idea.
Yep. Sounds wonderful. So you've chosen the location in Shrewsbury?
He's right.
Have actually met with my Bluetooth is not seen here. I actually met with Brenda on Sunday when she toured me around Prospect Park, and so we have a couple sites up there scoped out. But I think I'll do that outside the project. Up there, it's pretty shady, and I like this this site here because it's full sun. And I also like that we can do the meadow style, which is low maintenance. It's really for the pollinators, but I'm happy for suggestions if there are other sites. The one concern I have about this site by the cemetery is there's a big patch of Japanese knotweed. There's a real big patch of large diameter stems that were cut down, and equally as big of what looks like smaller, like it's expanding out. Smaller, the stems aren't as big, and so I want to study that, and because if that's going to take over this whole space in 5 years, it would be a waste of time to do the project here. So I need to better understand that knotweed situation.
Okay, well, thank you. We wish you luck with this. endeavor. I think you need to contact other departments within the town to get permission to use where you want to cite this, but, I mean, it seems like a reasonable endeavor, and we wish you well.
Okay, thank you. And if anyone has interest, participate in the winter show, it's 3:00 on the 30th at the library.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Have a good night.
Yes. Is there anything else coming before the commission?
Not what I know of.
Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the committee adjourn for the evening.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.